You live.
All right.
I jealous you. Tidino to Runko, eh?
Tidino to Runko. I get the green, white, and blue. They
Green, white,
represent.
and blue. Eh, this is what I use me, you know. For the tell me one thing, my copy is tired. I'm still figuring it out. How about this?
No.
No. Why me? Why me background look? At the light so.
Yanda. Okay, I'll go back smaller. Okay, Yanda, so.
Yeah.
The face look dull.
I don't know why.
And then one day.
No go succeed. Mission impossible. How about this? Okay.
That's good. That's the best I've seen so far.
Okay. I'd expect a guest one from Gambia.
Okay.
Let me just find out. Okay, the automatic mute there on now, eh? Copy. You don't activate the muting.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Because I guess the Sarah cast and stuff are turned on. All right.
So Sarah cast there on now, right?
We good to go? I'm ready to go. Are we ready? You on mute? Okay, let's start. Good afternoon. I'm ready from my abode in Dallas, Texas. Okay. Last time we begin for talk English. Good afternoon. And let me correct me. They get a background from somebody in phone or they come back from the cast. But anyway, today we are also back for continue the discussion that will start last week, the Africanist Press discussion series. The Africanist Press, understand from them say and continue for put certain modalities in place to expand or broaden the scope in educating the people of Sierra Leone and we international party them about the governance issues in our country. So this series now one avenue where they will continue for explore with the assess them as we go for see what it makes sense, what we need for adjust and so on and so forth. So the last meeting, and we get a long introduction by the Africanist Press editor-in-chief, Chairman Oba, who they will to you again today. And it talked particularly about the public elections bill, the draconian public elections bill for 2022. And what they don't do for we is he say a lot of attention don't they on these parliamentary debates now, parliamentary discussions in the from Sierra Leoneans with regard to this bill. See, all of them here, so all of them they fall within the bill and what will they do now? A different a little bit from financial corruption, where the Africanist Press we don't talk about, because these now fall under the avenue or in the avenue of political corruption. And then get link financial corruption, we see don't begin do that no more for let political corruption kind side. So you go for protect, you loot, or to be held accountable. You go on for rig, or you go on for steal, or you go on for practice what we call political corruption. Now we see so now small. In short, there's a link the nexus between financial corruption and political corruption. In the last conversation with the Africanist press, where I've been getting the opportunity for moderate, we talked specifically about the electoral bill, Public Elections Bill 2022. And particularly, something where they introduced inside it now we focus on the national identification number, where the Africanist press, as far as me know, and then first expose them to the public, say something wrong now. And then they don't spur a lot of discussions around the country, in the international community, and also on social media. And they get feedback from somebody in phone or in
mute people there. I think the mute button there. The automatic mute. That's what you have to do.
No, the host themselves and they come from. All right. Everyone is on mute except for us and co-hosts. Okay. So the last conversation, I mean, it don't draw eagle eye viewing over parliamentary deliberations. Just like how we see the other day, with over 1,000 viewers every day on AYV, and you get a small, news agency them with a show up. That last meeting with the whole, in fact, it end up in a big problem at the end of the show of the parliament discussions. They go stone one APC parliamentarian, and here this is temple in Naka, a knock off, left her unconscious for hours. So, two things we for remember. Say number one, my own biased eyes, the Africanist first talk about this year so, and he puts parliament under pressure for do what me think say they don't do now as we evolve in these discussions. But I will left all that talk there for let Mr. Bain self can tell we what's in the topic for today, or what he mean when we say state capture in the 2023 elections. So, Mr. Ba, if you're not ready with that brief introduction, the way we don't give, low fly.
Low fly, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Masali, for the dedicated commitment, and we also want to thank Seracast TV for allowing us the opportunity for use their platform for reach out to the world and Sierra Leoneans, both within the country and outside of the country, with the ongoing effort for bring what we call mass education or political education to the people of Sierra Leone regarding the work of the Africanist press, but most importantly, what we intend to do moving forward in the effort for fight corruption and hold leaders accountable across Africa, but in this case now specifically with the Sierra Leonean situation. Already, Mr. Masali in introduction.
Recording in progress.
It already highlights the developments that don't take place in Salone in the last week since Thursday when we hold first conversation, first series, and this we still try for discuss whether this will be an ongoing weekly series or we change it to bi-weekly or monthly. But before we go into today's discussion, I also want to open up and be fair to the audience on Zoom. We're already there for getting your own, because this is a people's conversation, in as much as we're reaching the people. But I'm bringing the work of the Africanist press in front of the Sierra Leonean public, and as part of an effort not just for report news, but for also discuss the news and dialogue around specific issues that will affect the country as part of our own responsibility for educate citizens. The greater goal is to build with what I call a community of consciousness, because oftentimes with the people, they talk say the people are not sabi, they don't understand, they have to educate them, they are uneducated, but it's our responsibility to hold conversations around the issues that matter. And part of the goal, me strongly believe, personally, as an individual, that a well-informed and a well-conscious people will definitely discover their own path to progress and their own path to development. And this effort again, now it comes from the humble realization that nobody knows it all. That in as much as we report news, we get access to information that the general public might not have and which we are providing. We also want to get feedback in terms of ideas and how people understand that information. And some of it also for moving from the position where we write for a more global audience and a more intellectual audience to bring in the issues that matter to the ordinary people. So that effort, we don't start so. We still in the process for explore what technology can do, what possibilities technology will allow so that this conversation can reach every village, every town, and every community within Sierra Leone, within West Africa, and outside of the borders of Sierra Leone in Africa and other places as well. So before I proceed, we'll get a guest in we missed. Lamin, are you there? Lamin?
Yes, sure. I'm around. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
So I know we are talking in Creole, but I want to believe that you already might be familiar with the language, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Chano.
Do you understand Creole?
Not very well, but I can pick some few words. I do some Sierra Leoneans here, so I can pick some words, but not everything.
Okay, I just want to introduce you to our audience, both within the Zoom meeting and people who are watching.
Okay.
And to say that there are other people who are looking at the Sierra Leonean situation. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I can introduce myself.
Just within the limit of what you can say, or you want me to do it?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it. That's fine. You can do it.
Okay. Well,
you can do that.
Lamin is one of our people now in the Gambia. He's, I think, tuning in from the Gambia, and basically, he has recently been given is it a 3-year contract, right, to work with Africanist Press? Is that what the contract says?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. So he is tuning in into this conversation to also, I think, be familiar with what is happening in Sierra Leone, and part of it is because we also have a project that we're looking at in the Gambia. So I just wanted to make people be aware that there are other non-Sierra Leoneans in this call. I'm still looking at the names. I saw 2 other people that I don't know whether they're off. Lamin, do you want to say more about yourself? Who you are?
No, that's fine. That'll be enough.
Or you just want me to stop here?
Yeah, that'll be enough. Maybe later, yes.
Okay. So yes, that is one. There are other people. Let me see. I saw Christine. Are you there? Oh, Christine went off. Okay. Okay, so having said that, I want to open it up to our people from Sierra Leone who are tuning in. I want to have 5 people who will summarize for us from their own perspective what they think about what happened in Sierra Leone the last week. Or you can just share anything that happened by way of news. Anybody want to volunteer for explain how you see what happened at Salone this past week? We want to get five people at least before we start, before we open. Five people at least before we start. Huh? Anybody? You can just raise your hand. So like make your hand that will put. Anybody want to volunteer? Where's Scan Africa? Okay, Janet raised her hand. Janet, you want to?
Yes, I will just make it quick because I get a little madam in the background. I just want to say how excited and I am for waiting happen on Monday for the women then at Sierra Leone. We take on the role for challenge the president on how the country they on, you know, the hardship within the face and all of that. I mean, there are many people within our social media we stand with them women there. You get a small number of people and we're against the women there. But at the end of it all, what we are saying and what we have seen, women they don't do waiting and no say, you know, others are afraid to do. So, you know, I am so proud. I'm so excited that this will open a debate. I'm sure the president will be forced, you know, forget a dialogue with their women there. So, and I also want to say the Africanist press, the influence where Africanist press don't get on a lot of Sierra Leoneans. We now know a lot of stuff about this government, you know, the financial irregularities and all of that. So, you know, we are no longer in the dark. People are listening. So I want to say to you, thank you very much for all the work that you're putting in, and that this go able help with people for make a decision when it comes to 2023 for say, well, you know what, we did not vote for people to steal from us. You know, we voted for them to be able to make our lives better. So, I mean, I just want to say, great job. Keep doing what you know best.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Boy Jallo Jamburia, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I hope una dey hear me clearly. Wetin happen na Sierra Leone from Monday to now? I think if for give the Sierra Leoneans a lot of reason for review and reconsider we contributions as citizens. Yes, now the woman then do am, and I'm very much happy it went that way. But at the same time, the results we get, especially with the reactions from the international community, is the message to we say, if we stick together, we will get what we want. We all know we don't need for reiterate all what they go wrong. But what we have in Sierra Leone is not a government. It's a band of robbers. We come with some vengeance we may not understand, because as far as I know, none of them na that group, they not get anything or any reason for say them be not offend them in the past. But they are using vengeance to promote divide and forget their way. But what happened this week, I am very sure it sends a message, especially with the reactions from the international community. And that for tell we Sierra Leoneans say, we can achieve anything peacefully if we're ready. That's my word for now, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, anybody raise in hand, we want for contribute? We don't get two, we want, let's forget 3 more voices. Just how you see, it doesn't, if how you see the last week, what caught your eye of interest, whether it has to do with Sierra Leone or it has to do with perhaps the place where you did, you know. Anybody there that wants to say something? I would like to have 3 more people. This is not a people's conversation. It's a friendly conversation. We should not feel shy to talk to each other and talk about what we think. We don't just want kind of we get Africanist press perspective on things and report on things, but we also want to hear what people think about. We moderator, you want to share your, apart from what you shared regarding, maybe you can be the 3rd person regarding what you would like to add.
Well, sure, I can add 1 or 2 things. What me don't see, number 1, I think I said it earlier, over the past week, there has been a lot of discussions around parliamentary deliberations with regard to then 2 bill there, so with it before Parliament. Waiting me like that the accountability will enforce not just, I mean, within discussion there are and then things that we only raised over the past few years, but particularly recently. Now the attention where both parliamentarians and the entire government of Sierra Leone sort of the face. So the point where inside our own small forum, we participate as Africanist Press Forum, we get some parliamentarians and we don't go back and forth with. One of the things that we then try for argue, I would say, then first of all, they not even get the documents in a timely manner. The point where the Africanist Press in the race say, well, since we don't get the documents, how will I don't care and go public? So there was a kind of rift between the Africanist Press and some of them parliamentarians also, when they asked like for say that them put the word na do force. No, Africanists said no, we don't put this word also out publicly. As a June 24, 2022 article to that effect. So that discussion they did. But also inside Parliament now, according to me, because me not in the day when they do the other half a bill, but we clearly see say, at least if unsuspecting citizen, a talent for say Parliament, really they raise the issue them when they're supposed to raise with regard to the bill. But of course, from hearing you, Chairman Obad, our forum, certain things that we don't say, and I'm glad you said today we'll talk about anything today. Now, for say no, this game, this whatever it is, it's deeper than what we see. So I look forward for talk to some of them today, because we're at a critical road junction of our country. I can always say we have to choose now between honesty and corruption. Yeah. So I can't wait for these deliberations here continue. This discussion I will get with you. There we see whose side the chips they fall by all of this. And that's what we're making refer to as total accountability. And that part they will do so now. We're at a crossroads of our country. We're going to choose between corruption and honesty. So yes, I look forward to the deliberations and the discussions and everything else we're going to happen from now till to the election. Because also we still don't begin to no longer for stop again. So I'm particularly pleased with the developments of public transparency in front of all Sierra Leoneans who care and to we international friends and partners. Yes, sir.
Yes, I think there's a comment in the comment section. If you do not want to say something, but you want to make a comment, you can also write your comment at the chat. We will read them out for those in the Zoom, and later we will defer to Hamjad as the discussion will go on to also bring the comments and questions from the viewers on Facebook and the other platforms.
Okay.
We don't get, I think, if you count your own moderator included, we don't get 3 voices. I think there's a voice about the week, the comment. I don't know if you will read that for we. Can you?
Sure, I can.
Yes,
but so when you don't give me feedback, say a volume, please. Me volume, they all the way up. That's a girl big
my own volume. My own volume.
Maybe not your own. You just say Mr. Moderator volume.
Volume, okay. I think so. Okay.
May I hear you clearly?
Okay. So maybe.
Okay, somebody sent a message in the chat. It said this week has seen and set the scenario that Sierra Leoneans could get a resolve to save our country from this junta, just as we did with Sanko and his masters.
Okay, and who sent that message?
Now, Co, C-O-A. The guy who spell Kuku, the last part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any volunteers or making also, if you say there is none, wait for one or 2 minutes. Anybody want for add?
Our volunteer, this Mr. Lamin Denke. Yesterday, last week back, he began a message for it. He back, then they can send me moderator volume, please. Mr. Denke, you got anything for tell me? What's your experience over the past week?
Maybe Mr. Denke not ready for.
No, I think say on mute. I ask her for unmute himself. Mr. Denke, not ready for talk. Yeah, logistics no more.
Hello?
All right, no, move on.
Mr. Denke, don't say hello. That's Mr. Denke. Go on.
Yeah, Mr. Cherno, good afternoon, guys. Though actually, Mr. Masale, I'm not going able to talk much now, but at least I deal with tonight, because I did a job now. Please.
Okay.
So you see?
Yeah, I'm so delighted about the whole thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that said, I think we don't already get a feel of the room. And if in the process you get a question or comment, you can put it in the chat box for those in the Zoom meeting. For those watching online, you can contribute. We will take this time we will try to get voices from outside the room by way of question or comment. We will use Suracast. So I want to thank everybody for following up. Maybe at the end of this, we will decide. We'll also get how people feel about these conversations, whether they should continue as a weekly process or a monthly process or whatever they suggest, so that we will include that we on decisions moving forward. So
I can make a short comment.
Well, today we decide we will continue the second talk in the ongoing Africanist Press discussion series. And this discussion series, basically, as Mr. Masali said earlier, now part of the ongoing corruption fight, ongoing work on corruption in Sierra Leone. So we don't find out, say, there is, and this is established, that there's always a connection or a nexus between financial corruption and political corruption. That financial corruption, basically, when leaders start for loot national treasuries and they don't become corrupt, the next thing they will start to think about is how to remain in power, how to protect stolen wealth. When you get a political leadership that makes itself, makes for itself a priority for loot public resources, divert public money either by way of contracts or travel per diems, or the kinds of mechanisms of stealing public money through which we have seen in the records that have been published by Africanist Press. The next thing these individuals will think about is how to protect that wealth. How to protect that wealth means how to remain in power, and especially when corruption is pointed right at the top. For example, for the case of the Africanist Press, what makes our publications much more difficult for any government to deal with is that we did not just write about corruption of a particular government agency or a particular minister of government, but we talked about corruption at the highest level of governance, this office of the president, not just the office of the president, but including the president himself and the wife of the president and other family members of the president. If you remember, we've been published this story of where a nephew of the president used public funds and on an alleged master's program, in the UK, and then and the money was paid not following the process. This was somebody appointed within a year, and then the agency supposedly sent him on a year, even while on a study leave was paid. All the expenses was paid. We not only allege that, but we show evidence of the transactions of monies wired out to UK, monies paid to this individual, and also rent allowances was being paid to this person even when he did on study leave. So we show all of this. And according to the policy of the Petroleum Regulatory Agency, this government agency, that when you go study on public funds, you should be bonded. You should be tied to that institution. If you work in that institution for at least 3 years before you move on, that is even assuming that your study leave followed the procedure. The process of your study leave was followed the procedure. But in this case, it never followed the procedure. There's a case of nepotism involving the selection of the staff and the use of public funds for supposedly educate a relative of the president. So that direct corruption involving the presidency. We also show when this individual supposedly completed or returned from studies. By the way, there is no evidence that the said study program was completed as we speak. So for the sake of discussion, the staff in question, who is a nephew of the president, James Bio, was then transferred to the Road Safety Authority. Within the same year, we supposedly returned from the UK. So you see that kind of story of corruption involving a family member of the president. No anti-corruption agency cannot do anything with that, especially if the president is not committed to fighting corruption, especially if the decision to send this so-called staff, the nephew of the president, was instigated by the president himself. So you find out that when you report corruption at that level, involving the wife of the president, involving other relatives of the president, as examples in the country, what do you expect that president to do? The president, of course, even if the president, a law enforcement agency or an investigating agency like the Anti-Corruption Commission or whatever agency you deploy for investigate, decide for, do that, they would be unable to take action, especially in an African environment where the president gets this extraordinary wealth, this extraordinary power. So when investigative journalism or any investigation in the country highlight corruption at that highest level, at the apex of governance, it becomes almost impossible for certain leaders who are really not committed to fighting corruption to take action. And why did we take that approach, which is a very difficult approach to do? Is because at the time that the Africanist press was intervening in the discussion in Sierra Leone, what we had going on was corruption, a conversation around the fight against corruption that was dealing with the decade preceding the arrival of Mada Bio in office. I had to lay this as a premise, so because for these kind of conversations, I don't do presentations. I won't forget a natural dialogue with the people in this room, hoping that we will also get feedback as a conversation. So this is not an academic presentation. It's not the kind of presentation, but it's the kind of dialogue where we highlight. So I start the conversation on this premise for Shona. Forget at the question of what we call state capture and how it's tied to this question of corruption, and then how it ties to the question of elections, and why it's important for understand this in the current political landscape of Sierra Leone by itself. And then, because if we're not able to map out the various interest groups in the country and the various institutional frameworks we allow for this kind of situation to continue, we will not be able to get at the problem itself. We will not be able to get at the problem itself. And if we not get at the problem itself, what we will be dealing with is the diagnosis of the problem. I mean, the symptoms of the problem, now we're going to deal with. So in order to get at the problem, we have to diagnose the problem itself. We therefore do a thorough diagnosis. That diagnosis will help we get at the root of the problem and identify not just the problem, but both the factors who create the problem and also the agents who are responsible for the creation of the factors of the problem itself. So when you get this kind of analysis, this kind of understanding, then you go on do a complete systems analysis that allows you to see the problem as it is. And then perhaps that kind of understanding will able to help people and begin to remove themselves from the kind of affiliations that they have. Because that kind of understanding will only help you for able to look at your brother who is involved in corruption. And for example, we don't get time that we publish stories dealing with the office of the First Lady. There were people who were happy. They celebrated Africanist press, then clap for we. We go on, we talk about corruption in particular sector. The people who were happy for us when we talked about corruption in the office of the First Lady became angry because now we don't touch a particular sector. We can deal with people in their own family members, friends, and old schoolmates. And so the only way we could find out whether these people, the preference in terms of what they consider to be corrupt or corruption and what they do not consider to be corruption, therefore deal with what affects them or what benefits them, Now, for me, we're able to explain the problem itself, because then people will begin make informed choices. So then we know, say, when you decide for support, your brother, because they will show evidence of corruption, but your brother involved, you decide to go defend her, or your friend, or you associate, we know, say, you definitely support corruption because you are a beneficiary of that corruption. That you go only be against corruption if you are not a beneficiary of that corruption. Okay, but before I proceed, I want to also recognize a non-Sierra Leonean in we missed. Christine, are you there? I see you clapping. You want to say hello?
Yes, I'm around. The
Yes.
Zoom just kicked me out before, but let me say hello to everybody.
And where are you listening from or tuning in from?
Well, I'm at the Principality of Liechtenstein. I'm not a Sierra Leonean, but I am somebody who loves Sierra Leone. And I am concerned about what's going on. And that's why I'm following this.
Okay. Thank you very much for your dedication and commitment to what is happening in Sierra Leone.
Welcome.
Okay. At least you'll be able to follow the conversation, or you already know what the conversation is about.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Thanks. Yes. So this is not this not to basically, it will sound very intellectually based or somewhat academically based, but I will try to simplify what I talk about for the general audience where to listen. So we believe, say, for make you understand a problem, you can forget a thorough, systematic analysis of a problem. Just like how you as a patient will go to a medical institution complaining various, you sick. Sometimes when you sick, you say na headache again. Sometimes you go say na fatigue. Different kinds of manifestations of the disease go show. Loss of appetite. And so if you go to the doctor, normally you say, I can't seek medication because my appetite, I not get appetite now. Why the wake in the morning, I don't able to feel for it. So maybe the doctor decides, say, we'll give you supplements. Maybe that is not the problem. Maybe the problem is not the question of appetite. Vitamins you need, not supplements for help you for make your appetite come back, folic acid or B complex or that kind of thing. The medical doctor will have therefore decide for us to do a comprehensive laboratory investigation for find out exactly whether we will get feedback. I don't know that from Buddha, like a child participant. So this week discussion series is about that. It's about diagnosing Sierra Leonean society. It's about attempting to undertake a collective reflection on the issues we don't affect we, and also for do so dispassionately. And then because we're able to do this kind of rigorous discussion, then we're able to arrive at how do we understand corruption? Why is it difficult? Sometimes, for example, the Africanist press, we find ourselves, like Mr. Masali said, this week has taught us some kind of lessons that we've seen in the past. For the last 2 years when we were publishing, for example, we had people in the opposition, including members of parliament in the opposition, who appeared to be quoting and referencing what we were publishing. And these are largely, some of them stood in parliament, and even if they did not push hard questions about what we were publishing or did not take up in serious terms the evidence that we were publishing, but they pretended or attempted or tried to show to the public that they were concerned. I still remember a letter was written by the parliamentary, a joint letter was the two parliamentary leaders of the two parliamentary leaders of NGC and the APC in parliament decide for write letter after when we published financial details with bank statements and evidence of the unauthorized illegal disbursement of consistent over 3 years, of about 3 years of disbursements to the wife of the president that was not approved by parliament. So the thing made international news. It was all over the world. BBC, Deutsche Welle, and you name it. You're going to remember that conversation. So when that conversation became international and national, within and outside the borders of Sierra Leone, the conversation don't emerge. Members of parliament of the opposition across this NGC leader and the APC leadership in parliament decide to write a letter to the speaker, a joint letter that they write, requesting, say, the speaker for help them for find out from the Ministry of Finance and the bank governor whether the account details published by the Africanist we don't come out regarding the wife of the president was actually the case. And by the way, some of these opposition politicians, they don't call me to find out. They said that the check force, that they had checked the budgetary estimates, and in their own thinking, there was nothing like a line that says office of the president. They don't allocate any money to an office called the office of the first lady. So they were surprised that bank statements and check numbers and all of this was coming out from a press organization where they show details and documents and evidence of this kind of disbursement. So they wanted the speaker to do that. But the interesting part, where I want to point out, not the fact that they wrote that letter, these two politicians who are leaders of the opposition in parliament, the APC leader and the NGC leader, very experienced people. One is a lawyer and one is an international bureaucrat. They did that. They not even mentioned the source of the investigation. Instead, they attribute the source of the investigation to BBC, Deutsche Welle, and all the rest of it. And they say social media. They don't mention Africanist press. So the question is, why were they comfortable to mention the BBC and the foreign news media in their own thinking, the news media that was non-Sierra Leonean, not associated with the Sierra Leonean, but they did not mention the group of journalists in the Africanist press we decide for make this thing, we publicize this, where even the BBC report and interviewee. The BBC did not investigate the situation. The BBC correspondent in Freetown, we covered the story, or the Deutsche Welle correspondent in Freetown, we covered the story. Never investigated the story. They covered the conversation that emerged as a consequence of our own investigation. But the politicians in parliament who pretended that they wanted to take up the issue never mentioned in their letter the Africanist press that investigated the story, but they referenced the details of the Africanist press and credited foreign, the other media that never did anything but covered the conversation that erupted as a consequence of the thing. So why is that? That is no accident. Not to say the Nosabio. The APC leader, for example, had spent, this is his third term, apart from being a lawyer, a senior lawyer, has gone to the point of becoming a deputy speaker of parliament. Whereas the NGC leader has gone to the level, the highest level of the international bureaucratic arrangement. So they know what they were doing. They were not doing this because they were ignorant of what they were doing. They were deliberate in that. So at the time, we just, in fact, personally, I had to even send a personal message to some of them and say, why did you not do this? And one of them replied to me, I get the message and say, it is a strategy. You have been strategic. So what is the strategy? So the strategy in their own thinking, one of them said, one of the one we talked to, one of our other colleagues indirectly say, people are scared, the parliament, the government is scared. The mere mention of Africanist press is not trouble. So in their own thinking, they were scared of mentioning it. We say, okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, see what they were going to do. That was in February or March. I will show the letter in question because I want to show this. I'm still laying a foundation for how we discuss, by the way, state capture and how it relates to the elections of 2023. And then why this conversation is necessary to have within the context of the current twin bills that we have in Parliament. When I say twin bills, we get two bills that are very crucial, not just for elections, but also for the entire political future of Sierra Leone. One, as I mentioned in our last conversation, I remember, the Political Parties Act of 2002 is also about to be amended, or is proposed to be amended. Then the Public Elections Act of 2012 is also in front of Parliament for amendment. We already don't see the drama that will emerge out of them two documents. So these are twin, I call them the twin bills. One dealing with elections, the right to vote, and how elections, or participation in elections. It deals with the question of how do we choose our representatives in government. The other one deals with how do we participate in the political process. So these two documents, when the government or politicians then sit down and decide they should bring changes to these two arrangements, they are basically trying to define the political space and how to determine how citizens decide which kind of representative government they get and how they engage politically. So one deals with the right to association. The other one deals with the right to vote and to be voted for. Both are symbiotically related, and all of the two are basically fundamental. They deal with the fundamental right of human beings, fundamental rights of citizens. The right to association can be expressed through trade unions or other forms of association. When it comes to politics, is the right to political association through political parties. We not discuss the political parties bill. The political parties proposed the amendment to the Political Parties Act of 2002, which we are going to do as we go along. So far, we've just focused on the electoral bill, which has caused the drama that we have and the reaction from MPs. But I want to lay the foundation of where this started before we got to here. And I know many people, this is going to be a strong conversation because of your party affiliations, because of your affiliation to some of these leaders that you have. And this is why I started off by saying what we need is a comprehensive diagnosis, social diagnosis of the Sierra Leonean society itself. And which is what the Africanist Press is trying to bring with all our publication on financial corruption. It was not just about showing how Madabio and his coterie of officials we are stealing public funds. If we now check each of the bank statements we don't publish for the last 2 years, we will find out, say, we are not just publishing details dealing with the SLPP politicians, but we were publishing details. Papi, can you please activate the automatic mute? Because I see people are unmuting themselves. So if we check any of them bank statements, we're going to see, for example, we check the Office of the First Lady's bank statement. You find out, say, apart from the illegal disbursement of money that came from the central bank, from the Treasury to the First Lady's Office of the First Lady's account, what you will see is where those monies went, whether in so-called procurement. You take, for example, the repeated procurement, supposed procurement will happen with AA Enterprises. AA Enterprises is not just an ordinary company, it's a company that is entrenched in government business operations. So when we publish the Office of the First Lady, the businesses that are tied to that operation are all affected. And when you peel through those businesses, then when the companies, and what you see is politicians hiding behind those companies. And these politicians might not necessarily be only politicians in the ruling parties. There are also politicians operating through these companies who are in the opposition. So for the why I think say we get highlight that, because I don't see an attempt by some of the MPs, members of parliament, and some of the people that tend to support them, trying to come at Africanist Press in ways that I think they seem to have forgotten what we've published, asking us for even evidence, which means they have not been reading or looking at the bank statements that we have published. So Nadamic had decided, say, it's time now for people we begin get this kind of conversation. Maybe we'll not be explained to now which will be published. Will not be explained to now what will be published and why we've been released these banks the raw evidence without even saying anything about them. But now an opportunity for me we begin look at with country, look at with politicians, look at with institutions, and the implications where all of these efforts get for the elections that are coming and for the governance arrangement. So make a pull up first this letter I don't refer to before I lost my train of thought. Since I don't write, like what Pape they say, I don't write me script, but I want to pause there and allow me co-host, me co-conspirator, as the people in the accuse me now, Mr. Masali, for just sum up or react to what I just said, the premise why they try for build when I defend the document.
Sure. Well, me are still lost first. I wait for the big bang. However, you don't sort of set the tone with regard to how which they do the impact, not just government, but also people them in the private sector. Well, parliamentarians are part of government, and broadening it so includes civil society and the media. So there is a rift in our country today, as we see them, where Italian for say the way they go, people are saying Africanist press now against everybody. So, and that's where we are. Like me, so we don't follow the Africanist press religiously for the past couple of years. I just see how, like you mentioned, where people in self-interest confronts the Africanist press in revelations. You know, you see how people react to that. You give the example, but we've been expose the first lady, office of the first lady, then corruption. First lady, first of all, they deny say, you know want to get money from government. Even after you release that first thing, it still they deny. Later on, when she was pushed, he admits, he say, now for ask the boys in the State House. So then telling the people where they support the Africanist press, they're glad you say they expose the corruption of the first office of the first lady. But some of them same people, then maybe we touch petroleum directory or we touch the Ministry of Finance. When their own people, then the reaction also change.
Yeah. Okay. So share. Thank you very much. Make I just share the letter I've been defending.
All right.
That's a good addition to the premise, Papi. So I don't know whether people they see this letter. It is dated on the 18th of February 2021. As you can see, this is Parliament. By the way, may I just say, when we publish, we don't ever force anybody for take on the issue. But we are hoping that when people see things that are wrong, there's the purpose of governance and when you get civil society, you get media, you get intellectuals in the community, in the country, their business or their role is to make sure that governments work right. And the purpose of parliaments also now for provide the opportunity for check. So this is a case that we have to start with here. On the 18th of February, as soon as see. By the way, let me go to the Africanist Press website here. Now forgive me for, some of this is a little bit tiring, but this is the only way we go able for make us say first lady. Okay. Oh, come here. So illegal public spending. I just need confirmation so that they see my screen. Papi, or anybody go answer? Hello?
Yeah,
yes,
I think
sir.
we all the same. We all the same.
So when I see illegal public spending, First Lady's office received 29. When I remember this story, this came out on the 18th of January, right? Okay. Then we continue. On the 7th of February, we published this one again, in which we showed trading gender violence. First Lady uses public president's influence for personal financial gain. And each of these, as you see, is supported by documentary evidence. Now you see the document now. So here, and which we own usual, see bank statement. You see here, you see Guaranteed Trust Bank, Sierra Leone, the Madam Fatima Bio Foundation. Now, this is a private, people have been directed to solicit money in the name of, from the First Lady, and directed to pay that money into the private bank account of a foundation owned by the wife and the husband, who are President and First Lady. Okay, we also show say that money, we show all transactions in this, showing all. Say people that will reply to the letter, not to let nobody write, people that will reply and pay. Some of this is redacted because of security for the people involved. Okay, that is the second example. I will still continue to show. This is I think it was in February 7. This one, of course, I remember this one at the first thing where the First Lady been come on and challenge and confess. Basically, this was the confession. This story that caused the confession. So the most important part, you see, this is still details of disbursement and expenditure for the office of the First Lady. This was just 2018. We show all these transactions. So when I look at transactions there, yeah, when I see companies, House of Electronics, YOZ Services, Demba Enterprises, Regime General Services, Sheikh Salim Fekar. This is the staff and at the same time receiving money. So this is what we call the DNA of Sierra Leonean society is what you're looking at here. This is not just a bank statement, it's the DNA of Sierra Leonean society, the web of corruption that exists in Sierra Leone, the cobwebs. Okay, so you can tell 100 stories from this bank statement here, AA Enterprises. Now you see? So I am coming to this, but I just want for, and you see names of people, Agnes Yambasu. These are all people who exist in Sierra Leone. People who other people know. Individuals that could be schoolmates of politicians and, you know, so if you take company like AA Enterprises, you investigate them, you will see their relationship with politicians in power and people, you know, and all that. You take here, payment in favor of AA Enterprises for the supply of office furniture and access to the office of the First Lady. That was 10 August. They say again, real-time gross, you know, service transaction in favor of you know, AA Enterprises, AA Enterprises, AA Enterprises, AA Enterprises, within the same week. AA Enterprises, AA Enterprises, and you're talking about 40 million, 50 million, 60 million. So you begin, so after we don't publish these details that the First Lady admitted to, the First Lady come out, after the First Lady come out and say, yes, I took that money and I did what, begin explain. In February, in fact, by the time this letter was written, 18th February 2021, we had not only published about the First Lady, let me show you what other stories preceded this, what other evidence of corruption preceded that particular one. That was 18th February, and that was when the opposition leaders, not just opposition MPs, opposition leaders in parliament, oh, I'm writing my name instead of. I know this is very tedious sometimes, but I will appeal that you please exercise patience. So this one came out on the February 14th, 2021. And don't forget the joint letter from opposition leaders in parliament came out when? It was sent or written on the 18th of February. So by this time we had published at least 3 exclusive corruption stories with exclusive evidence of not just the misappropriation, the illegal budgetary allocation, but also the misappropriation of the funds, including the flagrant violation of the public finance laws of the country, the violation of the procurement regulations in the country. And then we went ahead and published also here. Chief Minister's Office spent 34 billion on media consultancies and travel per diem in less than 3 years. And we did not only do that, we did not only analyze how this situation happened, we also included, this is bank statement for 2018. And if you look at this, if you look at it again, you see we cut our cutoff date. Please observe here. Our cutoff date was 27 August 2018. Why? This was when what they call Chief Minister Office was created. But this account was an account that was run before the Madabi administration came. This was the same account operated by what they were then referring to as the Chief of Staff. So if you want to look at Richard Conte, Kelfala Mara, and other people, their transactions happened in this same account before the 27th of August. So the 27th of August was when we got the first transaction with the transaction ID here. And with this check number, the first time money went into this same account under the titulary name of the office of the Chief Minister happened on the 27th of August. Now that may cut the statement here. But if you guys remember, in many of the interviews, I had said we can trace the record, the financial record of the government of Sierra Leone dating 30 years. I was not only making a careless statement, I was making a statement of fact based on evidence that I have. So the first check number here, you can see, and the first amount was 750 million that was first sent when the Chief Minister took office. So it went on. We showed all how this money was being spent. All of these people, by the way, Dudley Cowan, if you check, there must be people who know this man. And if you ask this man, he will tell you, yes, this money happened. You can see SLRTC, Special Bus Project. You know, you could begin to ask yourself, what thing therefore take money from the Chief Minister in office for Special Bus Project? So all them here. I have to tell you this, go through this, so you can see also the same kind of companies here and same kind of individuals, Sidiki Jabi and all these people, and the transactions that were happening. So we were not just publishing stories, we were showing the DNA of Sierra Leonean society. We were showing you the connections between politicians and businesses and individuals in Sierra Leone, and who were the profiteers of our corruption. We were showing you hard evidence and telling our own story and giving you the raw material so you could also. But for some people at the time, I think they were more entertained because, you know, it appeared to people like entertainment. They did not understand, or they did not fully grasp what we were doing. We were basically doing the diagnosis of the disease that we have in Sierra Leone, the disease that has affected development, that has affected human progress, that has affected the lack of access to healthcare, lack of access to everything we call social service delivery. The reason why we do not have what we call a country, we have a jungle of predators, people who use the state as an avenue for loot. That is what we are bringing you in real time. But for people, they enjoyed our Sunday evenings. We are like, oh, would are they on the spotlight? Because other people took it personal. Because for some man, they just want to see them and say, this person had the exposure, but that is not what we are talking about. In the general sense of the word, if you look at this bank statement alone, you will see multiple families here that you know. Your neighbors, you will see them here. Your school friends, you will see them here. So other people, for when they look at the see person and say, yeah, that's also man they enjoy. It is not about enjoyment. It's about the disease of Sierra Leonean society. It's about the sickness that we have. That's what we are diagnosing. We are showing the root causes of our underdevelopment. That will be tried for sure in real time. So anyway, these two examples alone that I've shown you between January, there are others preceding this, for the First Lady and this. And then after this shock and revealing disclosure, what happened? We saw two senior members of the opposition in Parliament decided, by the way, by this time, the news of this revelation is now called, it's a classical, you ask investigative journalists around the world, how a mentor of mine, make I just say, told me this, who was actually assassinated by the Mozambican government, tried to do what I have done. Now, what I succeeded to do is, he told me some time ago, he said, Cherno, at the level of the treasury, when you are able as an investigative journalist to get at the level of the national treasury of a country, he said you will be reading the DNA of the entire society. Okay? And Cardoso got to the point where he was just investigating the privatization of the Mozambican bank, where it involved only $15 million. Wrote 2 articles. By the third one, he was killed on the streets in Mozambique. So I say that to say we will not be having this discussion if I was in Sierra Leone, and that's what I'm getting at. I want to get at the question of state capture and why perhaps nothing has happened with what we have published so far. It's not by accident. It's not because nobody wants to act. It's because everybody is implicated in what we have published. It's not just Madabiwa and his group of people. There are benefactors and beneficiaries, even within your parties. So those of you in opposition parties who were sharing gladly my information, you did not realize that some of your leaders that you support were implicated one way or the other in these narratives of real-time corruption that were coming out from the Africanist press. Today is my opportunity to tell you what you did not understand or what you did not see because of the nature of what was coming out. I think the shock made certain people unable to see. So by 18th of February, that was 4 days after the first article that was published on the Chief Minister's office, we have this letter written by parliamentarians, two senior leaders in Parliament, addressed to Dr. Cherno Abbas Bundu, Honorable Speaker, Sierra Leone Parliament, Tower Hill, Freetown. Dear Honorable Speaker, subject matter, report on alleged misappropriation of funds. In the past few weeks, Sierra Leoneans have been relentlessly bombarded with alarming revelations on the BBC, please underline on the BBC, social media, local electronic and print media, etc., purporting that billions of leones have been inappropriately disbursed and expended by government. This follows on the heels of allegations of serious negative findings within government ministries, departments, agencies, and parastatals in the 2018 and 2019 reports of the Auditor General. So they have to bring the Auditor General here. And we are talking about publications really that came out of Africanist press. But anyway, this is where the deceit starts. That sentence they add and they deliberately. You will recall that almost 3 months ago, Honorable Kande Yumkela moved a motion seconded by the Honorable Hassan Sise, which was supported by the whole House, calling for a debate on the said reports. Okay, then quote the sections. But anyway, some of you remember this letter. I will not spend time. With reference to the ongoing serious allegations leveled against the office of the President, amongst others, we as Parliament should, A, provide an opportunity for the government to respond to the allegations with the documentary evidence and specific facts and figures. And B, demonstrate to the citizens that as the arm of government responsible for both appropriation and oversight, we have the responsibility to hold the government accountable for taxpayers' money as and when the need arises. In the pursuit of section 93, okay, they don't put the law there inside here anyway. You want me for my reader on? Any response? Papi? Hello?
Well, it's left to you. I mean, we don't get the gist of what this is about, I guess.
So when I see here, it's signed, once again, we urge you to schedule a debate as required under subsection 5 of section please accept the assurances signed by the Honorable Cherno Majuba, leader of the opposition constituency 102, and Alaji Dr. Kande Yumkela, leader of NGC. So this was written when? It was written on the 14th. So, but let's come to this first, the first paragraph. Was it the BBC, social media, local electronic and print media? Which print media in Sierra Leone actually laid out this investigation? Was it BBC? No, the BBC covered our investigation, the conversation that was generated by all of these publications. So I will stop the share here first and face the audience and say, why is this important in the general conversation that we're trying, the tone of the conversation that we're trying to set? The failure, we waited to see what is going to happen, and that we never knew whether a response was ever made to this letter, whether the parliamentarians decided to take on this investigation and debate, nothing. But on our own part, we continued up to where we are. So if you people remember, or if everyone here remember, because now we're the top people, what do they remember? So Suvula when they provoke them there. Everybody's calling him people versus people. So if I remember very well, how did this drama end? It ended up with the dismissal or suspension, indefinite now, of the Auditor General of the Audit Service Sierra Leone. And it ended with what? The appointment of an acting Auditor General who has been in office without parliamentary approval, and who we are told by the suspended Auditor General that is not even qualified as a chartered accountant, not a chartered accountant to superintend a national audit, let alone be head of an audit service. Nobody should serve as an Auditor General of a country without approval by Parliament. But almost we are getting close to a year now since the suspension, if you like, dismissal, informal dismissal of the legitimate Auditor General and one of the deputy auditors generals, one of the deputy auditors out of office, and Parliament think it's cool to have that kind of situation where we do not have an audit service and a qualified Auditor General in place. So instead of Parliament mounting an investigation into what they pretended they were going by the way, at that time, the First Lady had already confessed to these publications, has admitted that the publications were correct. They were not just the subject of international media conversation, they were now subject of the entire global conversation. The global community was watching. Parliament pretended to act and did not act. Parliament was not even courageous enough to say the Africanist press investigated the situation. So why Parliament did not do that? It was not an accident. It deals with the question we are going to talk about, which is state capture. State capture. It deals with the question of the lack of independence of the institutions in the country. It deals with a situation where the executive arm of government has taken over. The independent has taken over and eroded all of the institutions of governance in the country. It deals with, by extension, a quasi one-party state that is masquerading as a multi-party democracy. And it can be seen and illustrated vividly. We can spend a whole month doing just a series of the manifestations of state capture in Salone right now. But because it's so entrenched and so deep, the more you look at, the more you look at, the more you look at, the deeper you go, the more scary it even becomes. And that's what I want to highlight to the people of Sierra Leone, that the effort to normalize and rationalize the looting of the national treasure of Sierra Leone that you see under the Madabio regime is not an operation that is done by just the SLPP in power. It's an effort that is aided and abetted and supported and condoned by politicians in the opposition. And largely in this case, we're focusing on parliament. They owe the people of Sierra Leone an explanation regarding how they allowed the situation in Sierra Leone to degenerate to the point where it is. Many of you will not want to hear what I'm talking about, because some of you are card-carrying members of this party. Some of you are friends of these politicians. They are my friends too. I know all of them. I have spoken to all of them at one point or another, and I still do. But the difference here, I did not allow my own individual relationship or acquaintance with these politicians who are, and whose hands and feet and head and body and soul is embedded in the current situation that we have. And if me not be Christian, they say so. That's how they do. But you know, me not Muslim, I do say, Alhamdulillah, I'm here. I will, you know, when I come from a very good Muslim family background, from Sierra Leone, we do not distinguish people based on religion. But, you know, sometimes you look at some of these things and the cobwebs associated with some of the things that we are talking about, and you begin to wonder, do you have to do sign of the cross? Or you just do the Kalimatu Shahada? Or which one? Now Muhammad, you could call Prophet Muhammad on a Jesus Christ, but then both now, you know, because you don't know who that was saving now in this kind of situation. Because the more you look, the more scary it becomes. So, how did we get to a situation where the opposition in a country, legitimate opposition in a country, legitimate opposition parties in the country, led by people who are not strangers to governance, who are not strangers to the way institutions are supposed to operate, who have been meeting and approving the use of budgetary expenditure, as we saw 2 weeks ago, before this drama regarding the electoral bill. Parliament received from the Finance Ministry a supplement to the budget of fiscal year 2022, where the Minister of Finance went to Parliament just in the middle of the year in June, asking for more money, the approval of more money, more spending. There was no drama. There was no argument among these politicians. Nobody was stoned in that conversation. Nobody was beaten in that conversation. No thugs or pepper spray happened in Parliament. But we came out and said, we've discovered that Parliament is about to pass 2 legislations that will affect the fundamental right of citizens to vote and also to form and build political parties. And that they were doing this in secret. They have to tell the people about it. The whole drama erupted. Now we are even having an argument between parliamentarians in the opposition who are telling us, they say we're not agree with who they talk about, or that they first talk about. So it's not an argument about whether you first talked about this, or, I mean, we are the last to talk about it. The question is, for us, it's not whether parliamentarians even were aware of this or they were unaware of it. The question is, we want the people to know this was happening. And the question again will not be just one for people that know, but we raise the question, what is the logic of introducing these legislations in Parliament at this time? But, you know, this is the risk of having an unwritten presentation, because you're going to go so, you go so. But it all ties down to the question of what we're talking about. How did we arrive at a situation where our institutions have seemingly become disabled? Which I would say Parliament not able to do something, to the point that the word bulldoze is now part of the parliamentary language. The House of Parliament, they tell the people of Sierra Leone, the electorate, that they are unable to discharge their parliamentary functions because they are being railroaded by executive power. Basically, Parliament is saying to us they are impotent as an institution to carry out their functions simply because we are led by a terroristic leader who thinks that he should, quote and unquote, bulldoze parliament. Which kind of environment would they get in the world where bulldoze is used as an excuse for the indolence and incompetence of an institution that should serve as a check to executive authority and executive power? There are ways you contain that, and we see that effectively on Tuesday. If we do not see anything on Tuesday, what we saw is the possibility of what Parliament will have done, and then parliamentarians, whether they accept it or not, whether their supporters will want to credit them or not, is the fact that we wanted to show the people of Sierra Leone that if Parliament wanted to stand up and resist the tyranny and the corruption and the anti-democratic nature of Sierra Leonean, of the Sierra Leonean government, we will have seen more than the kind of action that we've seen. I know there's going to be a contention in terms of, yes, whether you want to excuse parliamentarians or not, but the effort to hold a society accountable, to hold government accountable, does not mean we only have to hold people in the executive accountable. Because what forms the government, at minimum, now the executive branch of government, the legislative branch of government, and the judicial branch of government. So in the context of Sierra Leone, Parliament has always existed as a secret society. Nobody touches Parliament. Believe me, if I've been this alone now, the Parliament doesn't mean go arrest me for contempt of Parliament. They don't say that, because that's the only thing they will do. But back to Usawede. If we look at the corruption stories published by Africanist Press, we look into some of these transactions, please don't be surprised that you will find some of your politicians embedded behind these companies. If you look at for example, the travel tickets, money spent on travel agencies alone, which we are going to, an article that we intend to publish for aggregate, but already if you look at the bank statements from the office of the president, now if I know one for bold, I will still pull them up and see. You will see Africa Travel Center. You will see all of these other companies. Where you check Africa Travel Center, some of the way they listen now, they already know how many talks they would get, and they already know who get. So this is the reason why it's impossible. It has become almost nearly impossible. Forget this kind of conversation or dialogue around this. But how did we get here? What are the implications now? So Adoyeri, for the most part, people they talk about, they take during inauguration, they impose a speaker, they impose take police go to parliament, and they don't pass legislation over these things. In one of my interviews, I had segmented the opposition into 3 parts. And why make I've been do that? Now, an effort for just explain what is state capture or illustrate them. I have said we have an opposition, a section of the opposition or a faction of the opposition that is under siege, under attack through the institutions of the state, the use of executive power deployed against the opposition that is actually face-to-face with Madabio. And some of these individuals are accused of corruption. That's not that some of them are not actually corrupt, but the people who are making these accusations are basically themselves embedded in some of these corrupt activities we're talking about. So before we came here, we find out when Madabio can have power, he talks to the end corruption, instituted the commission of inquiry, did a white paper, listed people, who were supposedly supposed to be investigated. And people then begin to complain, how about this person and this person? So other people were left out. There and then you see an element of using corruption for fight a set of politicians, excluding other people we're not considered danger. And the question is, if you say an entire government is corrupt, people who have been in power for the last 10 years are corrupt, how do you select few of them and make them part of your government, part of your operation, and the others are not corrupt? Because they are not part of your government. So it becomes a problem. So this is why we intervened. The Africanist Press decided to come to the intervention and say, okay, if that is the case, let us address corruption holistically, both in the past and in the present. But since you people have talked about corruption in the past, which brings me to even this bank statement where I show now with the Chief Minister's office, let us look at these 4 years alone, what has happened in corruption. So when we publish those bank statements, we are not just publishing corruption dealing with Madabio and young people. We are publishing corruption dealing with Madabio and by extension, some of the other politicians we don't exclude, including organizations we don't exclude, who were also part of the previous government, who were not factored or who have been excluded from some of these corrupt operations. And I need to go back. I will invite people to go back and download the evidence that's published out there. And this is important because it deals with the elections in front of us. So this is why now you have a country where, and a government or a governance environment where parliament cannot act. So still some of these politicians will have to explain to us, in the case of the Africanist, this letter we will demonstrate, why we are they unable to cite the source of the revelations they spoke about. Why they never followed it up. They never took any other action around it. And again, why, for example, we saw their reaction with the audit service. Now forget about even the Auditor General. You could say the case there in a court and all of that. We don't want to interfere with judicial matters and all of that. But what have they done regarding the fact that the audit service, as currently constituted, is led by an unqualified individual who is not supposed to be an auditor, act in the capacity as an Auditor General, and has been acting, I think, way beyond 6 months now. Parliament has not said anything about it. Today, somebody sent me a video of an opposition MP supposedly criticizing the COI or white paper, whatever. I don't even remember what was there, but what are we saying? I try to underline the facts, say, since the beginning of the Bio regime in these 4 years, what we've witnessed is the use of the institutions of the state, basically the judiciary and parliamentary authority, for recalibrate the political landscape of Sierra Leone in favor of a hegemonic agenda. And by extension, that hegemonic agenda is being endorsed by the actions and inactions of the opposition in parliament, whether they want to, and that is what these two bills, now is the most opportune time for us to have this conversation, because elections, as we already know, is little close to a year from now, and we don't get these two laws. And I'm amazed and amused by the reaction of the opposition MPs, especially the APC opposition MPs, to our effort to highlight the dangers inherent in the public elections bill. If you want to remember, these opposition MPs, one of them even wrote on his Facebook page, saying all of the people who write about corruption against Madabio, this is Honorable Lahai Mara from, I think, Onadugu, the northern region, I don't know which constituency, but he courageously came on Facebook and said, posted on his Facebook, that all the publications, some of the evidence we're talking about, which his own parliamentary leaders have even written letters to question, he said all they are not true. So then it comes to the question of why Parliament never acted. It comes to the letter we are talking about. It goes beyond that to talk about the judiciary, to talk about the Commission of Inquiry, and how the fight against corruption itself has been weaponized by the BO administration as both as an electoral weapon and also as a tool for enforce and undertake a hegemonic agenda that might end the country into a one-party dictatorship. That is what we're heading. Now we are talking about a situation where people did not only think about how to remain in power and protect their wealth, but they thought about how to exclude. They don't develop even the system for exclude the citizens from direct participation in deciding who should represent them and how they should be represented. And they are also thinking about how to use the same process for exclude other people there who then think they're not supposed to compete in the political landscape of the country by accusing them of being thieves, of being corrupt, of being banned from governance. Because when you criminalize a politician or a citizen, when it gets to the level where you say a particular citizen is corrupt, is convicted of corruption and owes the state, what you are talking about is basically that person is a criminal. And if you criminalize that individual, we are not saying individuals are not, if somebody guilty of corruption, not for being held responsible. But what would they talk about now? Yeah, now the fact that the process through which you do that has to be fair, has to be without malice, should not be part of a weapon to exclude a set of people from the governance arrangement of the country just for enhance your own opportunity for remaining in office. And there is no way when we take the evidence we have in front of us that we have produced, the Africanist Press, and you take the evidence that the COI processes have produced, you compare them, you now see in a holistic term, you go able to get any politician as Salon, we go get the moral basis for point at colleague in terms of who is clean and who is unclean. We'll get very few. I really want to see that. But that is the conversation that they're trying to avoid. And at this make some of them now don't identify the Africanist Press not just as an annoying phenomenon that they cannot bring down, but also as an obstacle to the hegemonic project, to this project of using corruption as a basis for exclude a set of people and protect and hold on to power. So this is an overview, but I can talk about that illustrative. I know I don't talk for a long time now, but I want to pause here and allow people for, if there are questions or comments before I go to the next phase, where I really want to illustrate the complicity of Parliament and the judiciary and the real implication to the election. But this overview, I think, has been long. I want to make it sink in to the people and also see what the reactions are. But I believe, say, I don't try to talk about the fact that inviting people to go back, now that perhaps people are ease down a little bit small, go back and look at the evidence we don't publish. Look at the transaction. Now, not read the story first of all. Now look at the bank statement there. Look them carefully, step by step. When I look them, when I look the names, when I look the companies, when I look the names of the companies, when I find out who are the people who get this, who are they related to, how they connect to how they manage force made their name appear inside government bank statement. And then when I will see the connections, let me pause here and allow Mr. Masali to give perhaps a summary of this rambling that I have done, this broad sweep of the problem. But when you deal with the diagnosis of a society, you diagnose a society, it's like you take the patient in blood, you subject them to a laboratory examination, and then you read the lab test. You will see multiple dimensions of the disease. So this is why you find that even when I talk off from on top of my head and illustrate this thing to now, there are multiple dimensions that the conversation risks going, because it's the nature of the disease of our society. Every which way you read it, it takes you from different tangents. But a key thing why things are not flagged in the process is that those of you who are trying to come at me and the Africanist Press, because now you think the investigation, the publications will make, they are pointing towards opposition, certain opposition leaders that you support. I'm telling you, when I go back and look for what we don't publish, when I look the thing we don't publish, when I'm saying that SLPP don't publish, but they publish about APC or other people in parties, they won't have any look. When I go look at them, fine. Before they ask me for new evidence, when I go look at them, they find force. Then we begin to have this kind of conversation. I think when I go understand, say, your allegiance should be to Sierra Leone. If you put your allegiance to these organizations and individuals, it's good to be part of political parties, you're right. I have no problem with that. But I am saying that when we talk about graft, when we talk about corruption, when we talk about the looting of the treasury, when you look at them, you find out, say, we are dealing with old school clubs, we are dealing with family associations, we're dealing with old friends, we're dealing with not just political parties, but social networks that have been looting and depriving the majority of the Sierra Leonean citizens the resources we don't provide we with the opportunities for address what we need as a country, what we need to make ourselves better as a people collectively, regardless of which kind family name we get, which part of the country we come on. So as angry as you are with me, there's nothing you can do. Just go back and look these bank statements. Maybe that will help for put some ideas in terms of the gravity of the problem we're dealing with. And for me, looking at it, like I tell you, if me not been Christian or Catholic or any kind Christian denomination and then I sign of the cross, I would make any minute. But when I'm a Muslim now, I say Alhamdulillah, at least a day Air Force. So I pause there, I pause with Alhamdulillah. I don't even for talk this talk Air Force. So
thank you very much for the long synopsis. I shall say it become out clear to people and now waiting at some of the implications then with public corruption, the render, if you will, in our country. It's a web. Now there are some chats, there's some questions and comments in the chat what I want to look at. But before I go there, Mr. I want to raise my own observation by which you say I use moderator advantage now. Number one, you talk about the First Lady in office receiving monies from public resources. It is illegal, first of all, for a private office to be opened at our central bank in the name of whoever. It's against our laws because central bank accounts have to come from either ministries, departments, or agencies, but not from private offices, of which the First Lady office a private office. The second thing I observe validates them because I looked in June 29, based on the bank statements we show again recently, just now. So the First Lady received her own first tranche of 7.9 billion neons, was it? In June, whereas the office of the Chief Minister were far more important in government terms, in not get your money until August. Not only that, the First Lady received more than the office of the Chief Minister and many other MDAs down the line. Now, one of the questions we come was, I think it was from Christine. They say, anybody don't do anything, but then this public corruption where the First Lady in office, they manifest. That I one of in question them, and I think said somebody else answer. We'll come to that. Me no don't be on side it. Or the other two I want to draw attention to, now the ACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission. Somebody else again asked the same question. Where was the ACC in all of this? And then for me, I want to understand how come with Parliament write a letter inviting government employees for come to Parliament and give their own explanation as to what they don't see, where first of all, somebody even in the budget. How did that come to pass? And then insultingly to me is that there was no record of them showing up or even denying or responding to parliamentarians. I mean, is it that they can just blow off parliament like that? I don't know how government works in Sierra Leone, but in other serious countries, there would have been a formal response in some shape or form. So based upon my own observation, then by just render, I want for local look now at the chat questions and comments. So I'll read through some of those quickly. And then in the meantime, if anybody gets some public comments for Mick, the one who know the free for talk, they can raise their hand and we can get to them after we go through these chat comments. All right. So where do we start? Already, Janet mentioned state capture is a type of systemic political corruption in which private interests significantly influence a state's decision-making process to their own advantage. And then she shares a link. State capture, she says, has become the South African term for what is elsewhere called kleptocracy. Co, the short form of COCO. He say, the topic on state capture, especially in the Sierra Leone context, is a very complex but clearly a visible one. Gladly, today's discussion is focused on the National Electoral Commission. One question I want to ask is, why did the commission not publish the proposed new bill for the perusal of the public? Instead, they had to sneak it in to Parliament, sneak it in indeed, with the intention of hurriedly passing it into law. The chief commissioner should note he's there to serve the people of Sierra Leone, and it is his responsibility to inform the public of his actions. Colonel, please do not forget that you have made a good reputation at the African Development Bank. So they encourage you to continue in good ways. Now, continuing on, is Scan Afrique. Mr. Boy Jallo Jamboya responded to Christine saying none as far as public knowledge goes on such fiscal and other events in Sierra Leone. Remember, Christine was asking if anything has been done, any investigation, any action with regard to all of this. All right. There are other comments. Now, with regard to Co, this is the last comment here. What do you think? Say, I mean, it was deliberate. They deliberately tried to sneak this bill, and especially some of the critical thing they were decided, like the national identification number. It was on purpose, you know. And what I saw also in all of that is that we were being distracted with other multiple stuff. This the APR, LJ and Johnny Disley, and it's all distractions. Not to say they are not important, those discussions, but there were bigger things that we should be focusing on. All right. I don't, who's this? Okay, it's Janet Musa again saying the distinguishing factor from corruption is that though in cases of corruption, the outcome of policy or regulatory decision is not certain. In cases of state capture, the outcome is known and is highly likely to be beneficial to the captors of the state. And she mentions, speaks to another South African example where academics further developed the concept in a report on state capture in South Africa, titled Betrayal of the Promise Report. The analysis emphasized the political character of state capture, arguing that in South Africa, a power elite violated the constitution and broke the law in the service of a political project, which they believed unachievable in the existing constitutional legal framework. And then Christine said, thanks for your answers, everybody. I can't figure out how to respond individually here. It's all just really pathetic. And apparently they are all above the law. Cherino put it very well. This is truly the disease that is behind all misery. In responding to Christine, Co again say, there is enough evidence of corruption and the regime's efforts to illegally hold on to power by intimidating the citizens and manipulating the judiciary and electoral bodies.
Okay, we have 2 hands raised. Let's take
All
them.
right. So you want to address those? Because I'm in the chat.
No, let's wait for the Mr. Jamboria, could you first raise your hand? Can you make your own observation so far before we go to?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I don't know whether to use English or Creole, because I mean, one for me, Christine benefits small from what you get for say.
Christine don't go in and out of Sierra Leone. So
Okay. I'm sure she's comfortable with You see, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, what's in the happen in Sierra Leone is very serious. It's very serious in the sense that this is not the first time we're having state capture. And it was state capture that led us to a war. We have to be clear about that. The one-party state that Sierra Leone went into in 1978 was not forced on the opposition party. They connived with the APC. There was connivance from 1968 when the first government was formed after the return of Shaka Stevens from Guinea, we incorporate some SLPP people, then we get a government of national coalition. By 1973, we get some SLPP members that will willingly cross over to the APC. At 77 elections, some of us knew what happened because by then I was at the university. There was a lot of connivance. It's the same process that is repeating itself today. But coming to the issue, a lot of wrongs has been done with most of these bills in the sense that how do you repeal and replace a bill? For what reason? Was there any public petition about the last Elections Act of 2012? Why do we have to repeal it? Because that is what they are doing. They are not amending. An amendment deals with sections of a law. Whereas this one is a complete change of the law that will introduce a class system of voting. People are not seeing the fact that it is not a proportional representation system they want to introduce that is the problem. But it's the problem of cutting off certain voters or certain categories of people that they know may cause trouble for them and allowing those they can use and dump to be the electorate. That's point number one. Point number two is, why do they have to modify this elections law at a time like this? Why was it not done 3 or 4 years ago? You see, we get for look at how we get for educate the public as Mr. Bassey, and we get for double up. Otherwise, we are going to lose Sierra Leone because the issue of connivance with the opposition, it's something some of us had known a long time ago. But if there's one thing about us, if some of these issues come out, you say them, they'll say, that Malta, elect for talk this, elect for talk that. But definitely, there has always been a connivance between people in active and passive politics who are in opposition groups in Sierra Leone, working with this regime. Whatever the reason, I don't know. It may be blackmail, it may be economic benefits they are getting, I don't know. But the state is now working against the people of Sierra Leone. And we have to make it known to the people of Sierra Leone that whatever is going on now is not in their interest, it's against their interest. I would end up there, sir.
Thank you very much for those contributions. I see a couple of people have their hands up. Aliyu Ba, you next. Christine, you had yours up, you put it down. Same with Israel. I've already noted you guys, so I'll be coming back to you, even if your hands are down. All right. Let's hear you talk, Mr. Aliyu Ba. Do you have any comments? Let me try to unmute you, or you can do that yourself, right? You're unmuted. Let's go.
Good evening from the end, Nayana, London. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, Cherna.
Yes.
Most of the summary where you do about the financial corruption of this unfortunate government who get at the country. I thank you a lot for the effort where you they put towards unearthing corruption in our country. Now, immense work. It takes a patriot, somebody who believe in cause, which they do, for do what they can do. May God bless you for that, and may God guide you. I think waiting me go one for through to you, Naya. I think I will put them in the form of question. It's unfortunate waiting to happen in our country. We get a president who not man up to the job, and we get a first lady who feels a Sierra Leone couple day na in your pocket. I go remember vividly when they come into power in 2018 April. The inauguration of President Leone, the first lady, and I've been champion with a lot of billions of leones. Some of those reports are yet to come. Parliament's not ever take them up, and it no go be since now they hold the legislature to ransom, the executive, I mean. I just want to ask this question. If at all the Africanist press been done on earth anything about the inauguration of President Bio in 2018, if yes, I yet forget that information, they probably you go send her for me since Adena, you are subgroup, one of our subgroups, the Africanist press. If not, I go like for like go through a light on that as well, so that we don't know some of this financial misappropriation where they go on, especially from the office of the presidency. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contributions. Mr. Israel, where are you? Are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
I'll just put my camera up. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Cherry Number. You are doing such a great job. And I thank you, Mr. Amadou, as well. And follow up your co-analysis. It's quite a refreshing thing to see that we have somebody who has the pains, have the courage and the time to give us the breakdowns and exposures of things which we normally take for granted. Today we are blessed with social media. We are blessed with a lot of new things in the electronic press. So it's easy for researchers like us to extract material, but for the courage to set up a press like Africanist Press, to get the courage and the foresight of putting things to our people is great. You see, talking about state capture, that is now clear. People not been to see this kind of thing before. When one or two people go report on certain issues when they suspect, you go either allow, bring the evidence, bring the evidence. But here we are with somebody with the knack, with the experience. Even before even 2018, General has been publishing stuff. I got one of his book. I saw the book on Ebola. He's been publishing things, but you know, Sierra Leoneans not read. This is our problem. I'm a lecturer. I mean, I worked in banking for years and years, and those who know me know me. I not always like to propagate and put which I get, which I not get, which I do, which I not do. But those who know me know me. I find out, say, Sierra Leoneans not read, even on a very social media. You go write something so clearly, then when they ask you the same question back in about 1/4 down the page, the same thing. One tactics where I see the SLPP get, apart from several other things in what they note, is a new style of destructive politics. This destructive political phenomenon is spread across the routine, the entire fabric of the SLPP government. From the anti-corruption commissioner, the police. This is why sometimes those who follow me on Facebook, you see I say these last 2 weeks, every day a new noise. Because by the time you are paying attention to one story, let's take for a time when the Auditor General was shifted about. By the time we try for capture and get into the nitty-gritty of that story, something else will happen. They will say they don't arrest somebody here. They don't put this other person there. They will twist our attention to like the time where Kamalema was arrested. There was something else going there. So you shift the balance. And you also got agents on the back door. We come up with some things and they will connive to do that. So you lost the focus on the issue you were fighting on. As we concentrate on this current political elections bill, then we have this razzmatazz of of arrest of women on over the weekend. So your attention come out today. 2 days ago, they go try to do a dovetailing of the bill. We ended up with talks going to parliament, we'll never see, and using, well, we don't see in the first thing for Abbas Bundu election and also the 10 parliamentarians. We see how they put pepper spray. For the second time, pepper spray don't come on a parliament. The first time when they go hold parliament have been to man. What are we coming to? The financial frauds, those of us who deal with finance, accounting, and banking issues, we can see, but not all man gets the patience for read bank statements. You and I, if you are a banker like me, I started banking very early. And I started from a very clerical section until I become very qualified as a chartered banker. We are one of the first 9 people that will get that qualification, ACIB. And I can look at a bank statement, I look at certain symbols and marks, I know exactly where I'm going with finance, with the transaction. Then I take the transaction back. That is how I found how Abbas Bundu deploy the way they say, he may pay by check, the check bounce, where they deny saying no pay by check, he pay by banker's draft. When I look at the transaction result, I realize that banker's draft was eventually repurchased. So the money wasn't paid to the courts. So the $210,000 where he get the court order, which is still pending over his head, he still hasn't paid a penny. The first $105,000 will give to Berewa through Rena Thomas's farm for the first tranche of the money where the judge say, unfortunately, the judge don't die. Where the judge say for pay that money, when I save her from going to jail, because either if the instruction was like for pay the £210,000, $210,000 immediate effect or go to jail. And the negotiation came that they should pay in 2 halves. They gave the first check, Berewa came out, there were pressed men, they displayed the check over and they snap them. I have that copy of that in newspaper. Then, years after, then the check somewhat bounced. My take, when I read as a clerical banker, I notice from the analysis that the reason why he stopped that check, why the check bounced, is because he personally stopped that check, because he hadn't had the money in the account. So he gave that check in Sierra Leone, but the account on which he drew that check was in Jersey. It's Lloyd's Bank, Lloyd's TSB at the time. So that check bounced because he not been getting money. Then he get a couple. One of 2 things I analyze. Either that those days you can buy banker's draft over the counter. You don't do it today. I believe he went to pay that cash over the counter to get the banker's draft. That's why the transaction is not in his account. So he purchased the check, the banker's draft, over the counter. And then he presented the check into the judiciary. He had somebody in the judiciary help him for extract that banker's draft, where the banker's draft not go through the banking system. Neither in Twitter now. Yeah. So he repurchased that banker's draft. So that is why the money was never ever paid to the courts. So when he go claim in 2012, say he go carry the government to court because they accused him of money, he forgot to say he was convicted. He was technically convicted because the judge not go give you a court order if he not find you guilty. So he cannot deny he's not convicted. So that money was never paid, and up to today, not paid. I don't write several articles where I say if I pay that money with all the interest from 1996 on year basis, based on bank overdraft interests. And Abbas Bundu not tell him, let me be my friend who will be doing like that. He go to pay that money. He owes Sierra Leoneans that money.
Thank you very much, sir.
Government of Sierra Leone. So this is the kind of capture. This is the kind of things that they do.
Yeah.
So, we talk about, so these are the kind of people within then companies here. I give that analysis because I want to back within Chevron and say So you go find politicians in a certain companies, but the name that they under. All those companies, you see, this is what is happening. I worked in different banks. I worked in the city of London for over 12 years, and I worked in the West End branches. And I know who that they come to me for open account. Look at the rise, the Philip Brothers case, when they began for freeze the whole of Sierra Leone accounts in England to the commercial courts. People they can't wait, they give them check in their personal name, big men them. Some of them don't die today. They seize that money there. They not pay them back. The government will give them money then they. So we can call names, we can point fingers. But this kind of thing, waiting generally do so is fantastic. And if we take the time and the patience to analyze those bank statements and take time, read them, you will find out, see, there are plenty implications and one-sided.
We need to.
Parliament is like a society to themselves.
Well, maybe the Africanist press need to hire you, sir, so you can look at some of the bank statements they've been sharing. I'm sure you provide expert opinion on those.
I don't look at me and the don't talk before. So I can tell when you see the statement, you will know how the transaction go. These are the kind of things which we know, but we can put with politics once. When it comes to our professional with me about mixed matters. If I deal with professional matters, I do politics. It doesn't matter whether the APC matter or the SLP matter. This is me, plain and simple. When it comes to my own reality, doing things, I mean, I will call you out. I will call you out.
We appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Shirley, we'll get a couple more people in, but if you want to respond to some
I want the second overview and maybe address the key point because the meeting not to go on for long now. We're not going to get the conversation, all of this in one go.
Yeah.
Say at the end, we go for see if we will do it, people will suggest the time frame. We still build this process. This discussion series is still in development, and that will make people understand. So we are still on the experiment. What kind of method or approach will be the most effective in having these kind of conversations, given the limitations with technology, the limitations or even the promise that technology provide for we. But yes, taken from Mr. Boijalo Jamboria and all of the speakers, will contribute to the conversation. Before I address the request from Mr. Aliyu Ba regarding the expenditure details of the inauguration. In fact, I write a book right now on the bio regime, all of this corruption that I've been working on. Then at the starting point, we not just look at the financial arrangement, the rogue financial arrangement for the hosting of the inauguration, but also the violence we witness, the choreography of violence, now be a real indication of the kind of government we Biogafo introduced in the country. Because if you remember the commentary from AYV, where people make fun of the broadcaster, when they talk about them, people really fall down on top of each other. So people actually were wounded or even died during the inauguration. I mean, so that has been a clear indication of what is actually unfolding in front of us, the nature of violence and the disorderly nature of the entire arrangement. Yes, we get the details of the financial expenditure of that, and we also get the details of the fact, say, the wife of the president and the president in doing their second wedding or wedding anniversary, whatever definition you call them, took significant amount of money. For the first time now, we took on over 10 billion euros we've identified so far that came out of the treasury in the name of helping the president with in wedding. That is at the time, over $1 million. That information will not publish it. I've been on the talk button, say with the publisher. But since I mentioned that, there has been dramatic events in Freetown up to now. So with the way it makes sanity prevail, then we'll be able. But why did I start this conversation on state capture by highlighting first and foremost the financial side of this financial aspect of the government in operation. Now, and also why I come for explain and ask people to go read the bank statements. And I think this is what Mr. Israel has already underlined. When you take a single transaction, it's like a thread, it's a language by itself. It tells multiple stories. And an example is the banker's draft that we've just heard about regarding Abbas Bundu's story. And why I think say Mr. Israel's example is crucial, because it is, I will start with it because it is getting me to what I actually wanted to talk about as the closing of this conversation tonight, which is not just the impossibility or the unwillingness of the political class collectively, whether they are the government in power or sectors of the opposition, not all the opposition, but sectors of the opposition, where tend to condone what has happened or who have not taken any action on the situation. It's not just about the implications that we see in the bank statements, the transactional details that we see, and who it ropes and who it doesn't rope, but almost, for the most part, everybody seems to be roped in the situation. Now, the fact that it takes me to the COI as an example, and why we therefore use the COI, because we are trying to use the court system and also parliament as examples for illustrate how these financial transactions, how these financial operations, rogue financial operations translate into the political, how it holds the political structure of the society. Because once you get to a level where politicians and the society has been disexposed, where we can establish without not allegation, establish with evidence that you have given over $5 million to your wife, more money to your wife, more than government agencies, where you've taken money in the name of travel, $1 million, over $1 million to Lebanon that never came back, where you've used similar amount for a so-called wedding and you still deny, say, nothing of sort. So you find out that what stands between punishment or maybe justice for the people, for the theft of public wealth, now the question of state power, especially in an environment where democratic institutions are not independent. We don't get an independent judiciary. I don't need to emphasize that point because we know. Where parliament can write a letter and decide not to follow it up and just forget about Alex, not be ever do it, and not tell the people. It's not a coincidence. Now the fact that now the state itself, people who are involved in this, and begin to think about how do we prevent, because if this kind of government goes out, the first thing people will think about is how to hold people responsible for this kind of destruction. And then holding, for example, the First Lady of, the day you will get a process where you have to bring the First Lady of Sierra Leone to account for the receipt, illegal receipt, and use of public funds. Not to the First Lady you talk about, you are talking about the range of other companies, enterprises get for come either as witness or accomplices. The petrol company, the way supposedly they receive money, get for as witnesses or accomplices, and a host of other individuals, whether they are media, you can get media agencies and all. So all of them companies that are implicated with a name on the out. And the Nazis say this government are not face a situation where it can be voted out. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to fight back. Even if they do not want this government to continue, but they know that this government going away will mean not just the loss of the economic interest, but also it means they too are going to be held responsible for some of these things. This is the implication that we have in front of us, which is why you see we not get a normal government environment anymore in Salon. This is why you see parliamentarians who sat down for 15 days talking about from pre-legislation to first reading. They talked about the legislation that has so much implication. We get tremendous constitutional implication. They're not even spot on from the pre-legislation. We don't know about that kind of drama. It not happen. So the first reading. The only time we begin hearing say they don't request they make the thing go out, they have to discuss with people. When we came out, whether they accept or not, we bring this the public attention to Parliament and say, this is what is happening. And then Parliament decide to do maneuver. They go and work all over the provinces You get one small parliamentarian under, other small one day under the whole a small meeting there. They send me video, then Facebook Live. They pretend say that is the consultation they were. When in actual fact they started doing that, after we don't blow, we don't ring bell and head. So when it gets to a situation where the business elite, business class, and the politicians there don't decide, say they have a collective interest in for protect this corrupt network, then the question is, it's not just about now the image of the country or sanity in the country. Now, how do we retain power? Because political power becomes the only security for them. That the only thing we stand between them and for make them become accountable, make them hold them accountable. So now this makes you see now the situation in Sierra Leone has become completely dramatic. Completely dramatic. Now, people can call me and tell me, say, hey, they don't arrest somebody, and I don't arrest somebody, and I tell them, you cannot get me. I have to confirm. Now I can get an independent confirmation of a situation where it happened at Salone. And that independent confirmation, you're not going to come from parliament saying that this happened, or it come from the institutions that are saying, for example, if you say somebody and don't arrest them, then you get statement from police. Like if you say they don't arrest this person, they don't torture her. Then even if the police write statement right now and say, then confirm say they don't torture that person, I have to investigate whether what is alleged and the police confirmation are true, if not even a bargain between the two, because there's the situation has become so desperate that institutions of the state and private citizens of the country who have been exposed, whose businesses have been exposed, have now decided to come together, that they have found a common mutual interest in protecting the government from being voted out, because voting the government out will translate into a call for real justice for the people, justice for atrocities, both on human life and atrocities against the treasury, the national treasury. So that situation to deal with. And which is why you see these two laws and way parliament discuss fall within that trajectory. These are not accidents. This is why they have to bring in a new elections law and a new political parties law. This is why they have to try to change the voting arrangement in terms of having a proportionally represented parliament and also having restrictions in the voter register where will make it difficult for people to vote. Because when they look all over the country, everybody depend on the vote as the only solution to Salone, not to institutions now. Because people have lost faith in parliament, they've lost faith in their elected representatives, they've lost faith in national institutions, they've lost faith in the Anti-Corruption Commission. The only institution we've been depend on, we've been struggle hard for check government at the audit service. Now there is no internal audit mechanism in the entire governance structure of Sierra Leone, because we are not talking about just the removal of the Auditor General, but we are talking about the removal of internal auditors within government ministries, departments, and agencies before they reach to the Auditor General. And I can show you now, again, documentary evidence for sure, say by the time they got to Lara Telopias, they had gotten rid of so many other internal auditors and procurement officers. These even complaints and secret committees have been set up to look into all of these, that found some of these infractions that are there, but the government cannot correct them. So in my previous communication and the reaction of MPs, you could deal no say a large sector of the opposition endorses the situation, which is why they wanted to have a conversation around changing this electoral legislation without the people's knowledge, regardless of how they talk about them, because it deals with two things: how to protect power and how to retain power. It deals with a strategy of voter suppression, making sure people will likely vote against the government and we don't become affected by the corruption and all of this situation, not able to participate in the electoral process. That is why you see they introduce what we call a national identification number, bringing other institutions of the state, in this case, the National Civil Registration Authority, therefore help for make them restrictive. So a state-sanctioned policy of making sure that people do not participate. Basically, rig the election ahead of the actual contest by making sure that you develop exclusionary rules we will prevent people from participating. One method is by developing what we call voter suppression. Voter suppression, in this case, ahead of election, they happen through the registration of voters, making a register that excludes voters, or developing a technology or technique that makes sure people who you believe are going to vote against you are unable to register and participate in the election. And that is what the main key problem with the Public Elections Act is the fact that they get the implication for exclude the majority of voters, and we don't get a national identification number. We'll not talk about that. A second such mechanism will be candidate exclusion. You look at a set of candidates in the contest. You say, no, this candidate here, you get the potential for defeat me. So you either accuse them of sexual, bring case against the person, just like this person an obstacle to a continuation in office. You arrest them ahead of time. You have already, as we speak, Kabaremba in prison, on sexual charges and all of that. That's a different story by itself, but it is not isolated from this process that we're talking about. It happened just earlier than now, but it's all part of the process. A second thing will be the use of the so-called fight against corruption against key opposition elements or groups that you think get the potential for defeat you in an open and fair contest. A case in point would be the chance rebuilding case. The chance rebuilding case is a situation where we reported corruption of evidence implicating the president of Sierra Leone and his leading diplomats. Instead of taking action on that front, he decided use the evidence and develop trumped-up charges on that case against his leading contender, who he had contested with, who he did not defeat on 2 occasions. And that's what that is one element. You can read that as part of the voter exclusion strategy itself. I mean, the candidate exclusion strategy. Now, in New York, when we look at the case in New York, you see the government, on the other hand, while they are prosecuting the case in Freetown, in New York, they appealed that the case should be dismissed. Okay, should be dismissed, should be thrown out of court, then claim immunity for the case. Now, the court ruled last week, say the government, based on what they have, they cannot claim immunity. So on the one side here, they're claiming immunity. On the other side, they are prosecuting other people from the opposition and leaving people who orchestrated or carried out the transactions in question, because we provided the evidence showing how monies were removed out of the account from 2018 when the government came to power to 2019. Over $4.6 million that nobody has talked about. The $4.6 million is not part of the government's case in Freetown, and it has not part of the conversation of the case in New York. And the case in New York, we must remind ourselves, did not happen until the end of the year 2020 to 2021. In fact, the families took the government to court in 2021. So if not a lingering problem in 2016 and 2018, we don't get evidence of a case. The case in New York did not take with government or with embassy in a court around that time. It only happened when the government decided to do its own construction, when the BO regime decided to do the construction in 2020. That's when they sought license. So let us assume that for the sake of their own argument, they wanted to bring a case for the misappropriation of public funds that happened in 2011 to 2016. That would have been where they would have started instead of moving on the construction that obstructed the neighbors who took us to court. But then decide for carry out a construction in the year 2020, when they had transferred money for the construction from Freetown in 2018 and 2019. So which means they had no problem with any other so-called corruption that had happened before, until the subject of their own construction activities has affected the neighbors, and the neighbors has taking them to court. So, in a case of where you pretend you want to renovate or construct a building, so you will justify the transfer of money, because if you have to transfer millions of dollars to New York, to Bank of America, another Western bank, you have to show the reason why, even if you're not a government. You get for say, the car with this money now, because we want for do social construction. And real estate, we all know construction activities is one of the avenues through which illicit financial outflows or inflows take place. You know, this is how money gets laundered. This is how money gets moved through the legal channels, and they end up in the bank accounts of politicians outside and other companies outside of the country. So what thing will make we able to get the true details and to get at the bottom of that, the truthful nature of that story, because the politicians who carried out that operation are in charge of the state. They are in charge of the Anti-Corruption Commission. They are in charge of the police. They are in charge of the justice system. This is not to say the individuals they've taken to court do not have other cases to answer, or they not get other info, because as we already show, when you look at the holistic nature of corruption, you will hardly find somebody you can exclude. As Mr. Israel already done highlight to you, the case of Abbas Bundu is one classical example of the historic nature of corruption, or as Mr. Jano Jamboria going to talk about just now, the history of state capture that preceded the war and that led to the one-party situation. So if somebody for investigate the Africanist Press publication and get at the bottom and ask and find out for what happened to the over $4.6 million, it will not be these people in power who did that. So you find out, say, now that is the implication. This is why companies and individuals who are involved with this, who are implicated in this kind of exposure that we've done and the evidence, because it's different from just saying everybody is a thief. All man are Anyampi. But this is where you see the Anyampis on the record. You see them in black and white. You see the attributes of the Anyampis. You see those who enable it, those who receive the money, those who remove the money, when they remove it, how they remove it, and how you can even imagine a movie-like scenario where you see them carrying the bags when you look at all of these transactions. So this is why we think it is important now for me we look at these two legislations in front of us as part of the rigging mechanisms of the government of Sierra Leone. One aspect of the rigging mechanism therefore tries to employ the parliamentary approach, which is the development of exclusionary legislation. We will exclude candidates or citizens from participation of citizens that might vote against the government. Secondly, the use of the judiciary or the law enforcement agencies as efforts also for exclude and narrow the political space in favor of candidates or against candidates who are likely to pose significant threat to the government to the incumbent party. And some of these things are also supported by interest groups, because when politicians compete for power, you get a situation where you see that the elimination, what we call the politics of elimination, where when government attack an opposition party, for example, you find out that if not they compete for power and your strongest contender is roped into a situation, it gives the other competitor an advantage. So the essence of state capture is basically now for narrow a political landscape and in favor of certain interest groups who have captured the state and are implicated in the economic arrangements within that society. I hate to turn this into an academic lecture, but which are to say the implication of what we get now that if we're not able to look at the situation very carefully, we have arrived at a situation where all of these institutions now will provide checks and balances in terms of how good governance will operate have become implicated in the way things have happened. So when we see what happened in Parliament with the drama and talks taking people in Guna Parliament for stone MPs and all of that. And also almost the hostile position of certain opposition MPs towards our effort for bringing public attention to two laws or two proposals, legislative proposals for change the democratic culture in our country, which will affect the democratic participation of citizens, clearly tells you, or clearly questions whether they are innocent in the entire project. So that I want to highlight. So we're dealing with two. If we never get a free and fair election, which I think we have started forcing the politicians to begin to accept by drawing public attention on the Public Elections Act of proposed Public Elections Bill, with in front of Parliament 2020, where already would identify, say, it try to militate against citizens from participating and also give the Electoral Commission and the President the extraordinary powers for determining the outcome of the election. It's not accident. And I have said, and I will continue for saying that the Public Elections Bill that they have in front of Parliament is advantageous for the parliamentarians and the incumbent party. It is disadvantageous to citizens and disadvantageous to presidential contenders. This is not the implication. The political implication is the logic of the bill. So we could talk about the constitutionality, the lack of procedure, but the question that we as citizens, we're concerned about, we own participation, therefore ask, why did the government decide to bring this in the context of this corruption we would expose? And we say it is no accident. In fact, in my own investigation, I don't even tell some of the MPs and say by May 31, in one of my WhatsApp chats with some of the MPs, I told them that by May 31, 2022, that was on Tuesday, 12:27 Central US time, Chicago time, we will be about 5:27 in Freetown. I had already confirmed that these documents, the Public Elections Bill, has been deposited with the Parliament. And I showed them, I even screenshot messages on that, the way they show the date of the time when we confirm. And I told these MPs in my WhatsApp group, in fact, Mr. Masali is a witness, that I had known, we've been done the investigate, not just when these documents went to Parliament, but the processes that went through into the drafting of these laws, the thinking, because they deal with, they are not divorced from the financial corruption that we have investigated. We know the government, with the kind of corruption, the government is going to fight by all means to stay in power, because that is the only way they can protect themselves from being held accountable and responsible for the looting of the treasury, and also for the atrocities to human life that they've committed. So we had a trail of an investigation that shows right onto printing, right onto the thing. So even in the discussion in Parliament on Tuesday alluded to that, what we have said, which is that the parliamentarians or the leader of government talk say they made a mistake in the printing of the Gazette, which they said they printed on April 26th or 20, in April. So that clearly illustrates to what we had said in our WhatsApp group to some of these MPs who were insulting us for raising the alarm, that by the end of May, on the last day of May, 12:27 my own time, I have in my own investigation notes noted that the bill documents to propose the proposed legislation to amend the 2012 Act has been taken to Parliament. So we were waiting from May to see what Parliament and parliamentarians were going to do, until they pull a press release now, say, and then begin the pre-legislative conversation on the 20th of June. And we only get the argument and the tension between parliamentarians on when? 15 days later, with parliamentarians telling us, first, when we say the discussion, they say they don't get soft copies. Next thing they say, they will go around, the time they are complaining they don't have soft copies of the bill, they were going around the country talking about sensitization. So if you not be read the law, you don't even know the implication of everything where they inside. what did you go about sensitizing people about? So this brings me to my point that, and this is why you see parliamentarians, the ruling party, civil society, where they support opposition, where they support ruling party, they have all formed, they are now united in defending their own political interest and by extension, their economic interest. And what is that? The fact is that if you take the public elections bill, you read that, what is there for MPs? What are the advantages you offer MPs? The advantage is offered for opposition MPs, for example, if they have a proportionally represented parliament, it allows the opposition MPs, some of them are in control right now, like you take APC, for example, the APC transitional executive is controlled by who? By a section of the opposition in parliament. They are in charge of secretariat. And this has to be discussed in a frank way. So if you pass a bill and you get they are now talking about making rules for the conduct of their own executives. Okay? You end up with an executive, whichever way that is going to be made up of people within parliament or outside of parliament who are tied to this parliamentary process of the APC, for example. So where you have a proportional representation, these MPs who are now in charge of their own party executives will be responsible for developing their own list. They are not going to be affected. So they determine who goes to parliament. So basically, the parliamentary leadership of opposition parties, they know what they are doing. So through this process, they will graft, they already, through the, just take APC, for example, development with the APC. Already, the APC has a caretaker executive. If you want to call it transition, they call it interim transition, it's a caretaker executive. That caretaker executive is imposed as a consequence of a court decision. And that caretaker executive is made up of two groups. One of the groups of that caretaker executive is a group that is from parliament. In fact, the secretariat of that caretaker executive, the secretarial activities of the caretaker executive is run by the parliamentary wing of the party. So if the parliamentary wing of the party is going to be responsible for the development of rules and regulations that will put the party in motion for the election of a new executive or executives of the party, which is not a bad thing anyway, because political parties are built to develop transitional mechanisms. Political parties grow. Political parties are like human beings. We evolve from small children, embryonic stages. We metamorphose, evolve over time. But in this case, that evolutionary process, political evolutionary process in the APC is not independent of the state. We have to recognize that. That change where it happened at APC is everybody has questioned the qualification of the judicial of the judge and all of that. But leaving that, maybe even if we have to say that the process was fair or whatever, that is not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about how does this fit into the elections bill. So there is no way you're going to have conventions at the lower and higher levels of the party where this parliamentary wing of the party is going to lose out. In fact, an outcome will 80% or 90% favor this caretaker executive and their interest. So if you have now a national legislation where the new executives emerging in these parties are going to determine the electoral lists of this party, how are they not going to be beneficiaries of that process directly or indirectly? I mean, you must be politically naive not to see that particular situation. And I can understand why the MPs are jittery. They've been all over the place and talking, because we have highlighted the core of the struggle that they're engaged in these 4 years since the Madabi has been in power. So on the one side, you end up having a proportional representation. Will benefit some of this, because they will have themselves or their own proxies in parliament through the lists, maybe from different their supporters, and I think that is illustrative enough. For the other smaller parties, you take NGC, you take C4C, you don't understand. So you see, they have tiny representation in parliament. What proportional representation will do for them, especially if the threshold is reduced, say between 12 to 10%, it allows them more members in parliament. The opportunity to get some of their people in the diaspora or outside of the diaspora. Because the point is, if now proportional representation, I say, Mr. Israel, you will represent my party, you go mix, I just send a list. So those of us who cannot get into cabinet will now end up, if a party get members. So basically, it allows the tiny opposition parties the opportunity, currently in parliament, the opportunity to expand their representation in parliament. Okay, it allows C4C the opportunity for get more members. It allows, so basically, you will have a proportionally represented parliament that favors. So the inclusivity they're talking about is inclusivity for a select few of people already in parliament. And at this make them decide to not only introduce the Public Elections Act, they brought in the political law to also change the Political Parties Act, which, by the way, is closing fencing to make sure that other opposition parties who are not in parliament right now might not benefit from a proportionally represented parliament. So it's a power sharing deal. Una careful look at it. This is why there is instability in parliament. This is why there is unease among them. So what is the advantage of a proportionally represented parliament, whether you use district block system or whatever kind of mathematics you decide to use? You have a parliament that is no longer accountable to the people, but accountable to political parties and political party executives that have come as a consequence of the process of the judicial process and the legislative process, both parliament and the judiciary teleguiding or the process that allows, which means the groups that will emerge already have this shared understanding. So if you and where you have already developed a legislation that excludes people from voting, no matter how people have voted, the amount of votes will come up, then they have to calculate for give proportional representation. So the parliamentarians will not lose out. Now, regardless of what they say, they are against proportional representation, but they never told us that until we ring the bell on their head. And that's what they wanted us to debate, really. And then it will appear as if the government wants the proportional representation. No, proportional representation, it will benefit smaller parties and the opposition parties, in this case, more than it will do, especially for small parties like the ones that we have in parliament now. Okay, what is going to, well, how will that help a president? You will have a parliament that is no longer, that has no constituency development obligations. Nobody in the constituency will hold a parliamentarian responsible anyhow we behave in the parliament now. They're only accountable to the executive. And we'd already highlight what kind of executives might be in political parties. In the case of the APC, that is becoming visible for people who want to look at it. Still a struggle though. So, and it amplifies against flag bearer, there are flag bearer ambitions and implications, which I know if I started spending time to go about, that is a different discussion. But this is how you find out that the law, so even if you have a different flag bearer now in the opposition, or whosoever presidential serious opposition contender will be, where you have an NIN, you have parliamentarians don't lose out, so which means you will have a presidential candidate. In the case of the APC, they have a presidential candidate, even if that presidential candidate comes from parliament, if this law is going to be the law, comes from parliament, already as a result of this arrangement, will not win the 2023 elections because the NIN will have disqualified the majority of, if we're not going to get this company, will have disqualified the majority of opposition voters because they will not be able to register, because basically what they are trying to use, this will bring me to that in NACRA and Statistics Sierra Leone, they will not be able to register, and no matter how they rally, their votes will end up going to the incumbent president, your supporters and votes then go override, then go there at the top. So you will have, then if not a potential flag bearer that nobody wants, that's how they help you to lose. And they will explain the laws, saying that vote for apathy. People that rally for you, but they don't vote for you, or they rally for you, and vote for the incumbent. Already we don't see this is what makes the so-called midterm census data important in the conversation. This is why NACRA and statistics alone becomes important, not because of boundary delimitation, but because of the kind of database that informs this kind of thinking. So this is the implication of both the twin legislation. So I ask people, when I ask from a parliamentarian, they make them provide now a copy of the Political Parties Act, the proposed Public Political Parties Bill of 2022. Read the two in tandem and see one that limits voters and tries to take representative democracy away from the people and putting it on the heads and give that right to political party executives. And then look at the Political Parties Act where try for gatekeep so that no other smaller parties will not emerge that will benefit from this kind of process. So this is now called power sharing deal at its max. It is even expertly done more than the South African situation if you examine it. So it all boils down to one thing. How do these interest groups are struggling to remain in power, share power, and protect each other in the corrupt arrangement that we all have, and exclude others who they think should not be part of their own arrangement. And this is what's responsible for internal party conflict within the APC and the toxic nature of politics, who not even seem for the country not become so tense as if everybody is going to war. They don't make everybody afraid now, say war, they can explode in a saloon. They don't make it now because, I mean, Parliament not get problem for approved budget, not get problem for approved parliamentary, they not get problem for approved agreements that don't cost the country millions of dollars. They don't get that problem, but they only have the problem when it comes to the rejection or a discussion around whether an anti-democratic legislation should be allowed or not. Next thing we don't see, say, somebody send me a letter, oh, they don't invite somebody for parliamentarian, no, they want to arrest them, police want to arrest them. I said, so what do you want to do? I will not write about that because I know what the game plan is. So we have to be we don't kind of point now that I'm going to call on people in Sierra Leone to be very careful with what you see, with what your political leaders are telling you. You have to ask them. And you don't have to believe me, but I'll tell you that the same facts and the same evidence we don't bring you to this point is what informs our analysis and what we're saying. And that is the danger. I think I don't talk a lot. I would like to see if we go, Mr. Masali, except you got nothing to say, but I think I would not want to push the conversation beyond this point. I was hoping to go into NACRA and the civil registration data and for challenging, but I think that requires a different conversation where we have to call on Statistics Sierra Leone and NACRA, make them understand, say, this idea that they did a census and the numbers that they announced were actually census data and a lie. And that lie has to be called out, has to be discussed on its own terms. Because if we're not able to show the program, the effort, the institutional effort, how the political elites in the country across parties, factions of political elites across parties don't program the country towards this move that will end up bringing to what Mr. Jallo Jamboria talked about, what started in the 70s leading on to a one-party state, then we know the helpful country. We know the helpful country. And we get to hold some of these institutions responsible, some of these individuals, academics, journalists, civil society, business people, institutional heads, politicians, if we know enough as a country for ask these hard questions and pay attention to what they are saying, and then ask them, now this we want. Now this we want parliamentarian. It's been a long time. Every day government tells us something we believe, police tell us something we believe. This one tells us something. People should be able to put words to these people now, say, now is enough. This is what we want. Parliament, this is why I was calling for the whole week. Pay attention to your MPs. Because for me, if I want to sell the country or the future and peace of the country, we want to sell it in front of the public. We want to do it in a marketplace, more make the country to marketplace, so that everybody will see public auction of the country in future, in front of the public. This is why I spent the entire last week calling on people to look at the parliament, and I'll continue to do that even as they prepare to meet on Tuesday. Even if it's going to be me and a small group standing alone to spotlight the situation, we're going to do it so that at least we will hold ourselves. We will go to after that auction don't happen. If it ever happen, we can go to bed and sleep quietly that we did our own part. So we cannot be morally responsible for not telling the people of Sierra Leone that this is a bargain that has been made. You can choose to believe your political leaders. You can choose to support your sectarian groups. But we owe it to our conscience and what we know to help you to understand that this is the collective bargain of the groups that we support. And it's a complete disservice. Now we have an opportunity. This is what my effort, when I watch every minute I was posting on my Facebook asking, when I look parliament. It is not an accusation against an individual politician in parliament or a set of group in parliament. Interestingly, only the APC parliamentarians, and I don't become the insult we. The question is, why are you the only opposition people in parliament? Exactly. Why are you so angry? Why do you have to think that you have to even go and make videos of talks in parliament and say the una way say we don't sell out? Look where they beat we. You don't have to prove yourself that you are right or wrong in front of Africanist press. I mean, that effort alone in itself speaks volume. The effort for sure say una correct self, for sure say we that mere suspicion or assumption would make it. I mean, so the evidence so about. So even with your own actions, you can see yourself in the mirror. It has come to a point where I have decided, me and my team, to show the people of Sierra Leone that if the relief that they want is not going to happen, it did not happen because some of us did not try to help bring that relief. But we did all we can, use our time, use our resources, use our lives, put our families at risk for come to the defense of country and people, and say our people have suffered so much and so long that we can do things better. But we do not have to come to a point where we have to destroy ourselves and destroy the country in pursuit of individual politicians and ambition. So the reason why I never wanted to start broadcast programs, because I always consider myself not a broadcast journalist. And I have to force myself to come to this point for being a broadcaster, almost, because I realized that there was not just a constant effort to sell the country and sell the future of the country, but an effort to also deliberately prevent circulation of the truth to people, information, real information to the people, by these groups of people, interest groups that I'm talking about. So we therefore develop proactively now say, let us try to tell the people what it's about, so that if they do not get their relief, at least we can go to bed, sleep, and say, we don't spend with time for nothing, not because we not try for them. Now we are leaders, then we are the support, we are always lay on our lives for. Now they don't want relief for them. This is what this series are about. They are about political education. They are about at least redeeming our own conscience, that we've done our own part, and we will continue to do our own part. It's upon you to trust your leaders and decide which way you want to go. So in our next conversation, if we decide to we'll do this weekly, if I get the time, we would sacrifice time for do this, in as much as it is coming at great cost for we. We go continue on. And I want to also thank Seracast TV and the entire production team, management, Hamjat, and the others will make it possible for we for use the platform for continue this conversation, this series. Such a difficult time, you know, in our country that even doing things like this has become a challenge. So I just want to stop here. But for summarize my point, that the fact that the Public Elections Bill and the Political Parties Act or bill, they are not innocent enterprises by the politicians in parliament and those in power. They are not by accident. Every legislation has a reason for bringing every politician or lawmaker get a reason for thinking about legislation in the first place. What is the logic of bringing a legislation? Whose benefit did they add to the country or to the people in power? And we are saying they are part of the rigging mechanisms. We've said this. So it's upon the politicians to put the country at risk for their own interest. But our own role and job and responsibility is what we're doing, showing that this is about to happen and has happened. And we do not say this by making assumptions. We are informed by evidence. By evidence, we stand on evidence and fact and truth. And that truth and fact has not been able to, nobody been able to contend against that up to now. None of these politicians in opposition before and today, and those who have decided to collaborate with the regime to protect their own economic and political interests have been able to say we are lying. And we are not looking for credit from them. One of the MP decided for Nami WhatsApp group, I think, this afternoon before we come to this show. They say we are doing well, then we'll praise. We are not looking for praises. So I had to even tell this particular individual, say, by the time our names have become names in certain quarters of the world, you were still in school. Yes, indeed. So because the arrogance of power, sometimes these titles, what political power does to some people, it gives them the license to insult or look down on people and think nobody matters other than them and the people who are like them. So now some of the painful situation, but we have to suffer this kind of pain because we're dealing with a country that's ours. That we cannot just sit by and allow injustices and corruption to thrive. So I have said a lot, but I want to point out that for Una and the APC, Una the things say this is against you. You never complained when we were publishing details of the office of the president, when we showed that Madabio don't fake receipt. He lie say he go pay hotel in Japan. We show say the lie. We show say Fatima where they tell Una say Randy receive 1 cent from government money in a lie. We show Una. Una don't share that information at all. What you did not understand at the time was that what you were sharing, the bank statements, also implicate some of our leaders there. And we are not just talking about corruption that exclusively involved, but some of the leaders you support who are collaborating with the government are in those transactions. Go back and look at them. And look at the developments where we are, where some of your MPs are now coming out and even writing on their Facebook pages, trying to defend becoming the new defense line of the government of Sierra Leone. And they are getting some of you, we don't share with information and clap for we in the past. For things say now, would they make unnecessary accusations? We stand on the same line. What I want to assure you that the same evidence and truth that we stood on, that we exposed all of these other politicians you see from the office of the current president to his wife and other people, is the same evidence and the same place we are standing. The more how far we go, we're ready for go a larger distance. But we cannot allow politicians to sit behind the scenes, bargain, and sell a whole country and put the country at risk. We know of that. We get the evidence. We will not produce that to foresee. The decision is yours to make. My own role as a journalist and as a citizen of Sierra Leone is to bring that information to you. And I'm telling you, in brief, that the public elections bill will have gone through Parliament secretly without this noise. Whether your parliamentarians convince you otherwise or not, it's up to you, but that's what I know. And I don't show some of them who will go and argue all over the place. Say, look out, by 31st of May, 2022, 12:27, my own time, my own staff, my own team has confirmed that these documents were now in Parliament. Mr. Masali, have I not said that and showed these people that I'm talking about?
Yes, you have. Yes, you
In a
have.
public forum where there are over 100 people in front of them. So basically,
Yes.
when I ask when a politician, when I MPs them, when I all them people, let them be honest to you and be honest to the country. They cannot use you forever. It's a disservice to the country and the people. If they want to, so let us look at them as they do this public elections bill. Now they are beginning to find a way which part of the law good, which part of the law bad, which part. I mean, when you get a rotten mango, when mango is rotten or an orange is rotten, do you have to look at which part of the orange is rotten and which part is on? I mean, what kind of I cannot even understand that kind of. You must be really starved of food. You must be really dying of lack of food. So in this case, you must be really dead of conscience. You have no conscience to begin to think about, or consciousness to begin to think about how do we manipulate the people to see which part of this legislation can be amended, how go smooth, how go. I mean, why do you have to force a bad law, which you said is unconstitutional, has a constitutional implication that even tampering with a sentence or a word or a phrase in the Constitution is tantamount to treason? And then you have to have people who are now bombarding us with the impression that MPs, all of the MPs are going to be arrested so that the government will have its way. Are we in the 1970s, where people do not have access to communication technology as we have it now today? Able, it has been a long time. So this is why I've decided to come to you, come to people, all of you here. I mean, to tell them that it is not that we did not try to bring relief. We have done our own part freely, easily. In the past, when we started, they say we're in APC. The SLPP newspapers wrote that I have been paid $5,000 to tarnish the wife of the president. And the other day, that's a 5,000. They realized a 5,000 too small for me. So then go to 200,000. So go on. This week to last week, we now have opposition MPs from Parliament now coming to the defense, repeating the same thing that the SLPP been, and they are not yet in power. But the reason why they have to do that because of the bargain that we have exposed. It's the bargain that we have exposed. And they cannot come to you and admit to that. They therefore defend themselves to the last because this is their career, is their life, is their wealth. They are implicated. The same way that the wife of the president and his supporters and try to defend themselves, the same way now we are looking at pro-opposition sectors. I've divided the opposition into three parts in one of my discussions: opposition under siege, opposition within the opposition, and an opposition that is at night in bed with the ruling party. In daytime, it pretends to be opposition. So this is what you're dealing with. My own job, as I say, you don't have to give me a praise. I just want a better country. And when the government began to attack me, the right ONS said them for Stop Africanist Press. All of the people who have defended Africanist Press and me, and talk about the protection, they are international organizations from the US, from Europe. There's no organization in Sierra Leone that will defend me. And I don't look to that because I know my work implicates many of the groups that are involved. So I was not doing it with the illusion that something happens to me, they're going to defend me. No. In fact, they would love that something will happen to me because I will not be in the capacity to say what I'm saying now. So I've decided to use my voice to explain to you what is at stake so that you will not say you did not read it, you did not see it, you did not hear it. So that this talk series is about speaking truth to not just to power, but to the people. of Sierra Leone so you can understand what we are dealing with. In these 4 years, we've shown you step by step, detail by detail, check number after check number, names after names, companies after companies of people looting the national treasury. And these people involve the president, the wife of the president, the chief minister, to some names who are your school friends, who are your relatives, you feel bad about it. I feel bad about it too. It's even painful for me to do it because every time I do it, I mean, the stress we go through, people who are closer to me knows that I go through stress as a consequence of doing what I do. Because it's not the kind of job that you want to do because you will not even have friends in the real sense of the word because you suspect everyone and anyone who is in front of you. Anybody's have, sometimes I receive phone calls, I have to pick which kind of phone call I receive. So people call me sometimes for just tell me thank you no more. I just have to remain silent. Talk to you. I say, okay, thank you for calling me. Because you don't know. Yeah, you do not know whether that call is a friendly call or it's a call of something. So that is the kind of isolation that we suffer as a consequence of this kind of situation. What do I look for? Relief for the people. We want to have a democratic environment. If the government don't believe that they don't perform on the record, let them contest on their record. They do not need laws or extraordinary systems, complex systems, make it difficult just to stay in power. If the president believes they don't do well, let him contest. You do not have to use the court, use the parliament for develop laws and mechanisms for staying in power. And this is I never wanted to come to a point where I have to use voice to be able, because I was thinking that the political class for a moment in our history will be able to look at these transactions, look at the bank statements, without me saying that they're implicated and say, you know what, we'll go for correct something. No. It's time we sit back and say, no, our country cannot go this way. We have to do something to change the country. But instead, they decided to sit down and plan how to deceive and distract and keep the people hostage to this politics of predation, this politics of looting. We cannot have that. We cannot have this continuously. So if people who read those articles, who shared those articles, who were happy and amazed and impressed by it, now feel offended by it, I want to tell you, I haven't done anything different. I have done the same thing and keep doing the same thing. But maybe you did not understand what you were looking at. It's time for me to tell you what you're looking at. And this is what you're looking at the beginning of just things that were going to say in this. So I don't need for make a presidential address. I just want to stop here and pause and see if there are comments or anybody willing to say something before we start goodbyes. But I want to thank everybody. If God and health permit, I want to assure you.
Don't close the moderator's meeting now.
Okay. Because I want to tell goodbye now, sir, if I go.
So I see. It's all good. This has been wonderful. I have a couple of observations. Number one, just recently, today, in fact, I sent through on social media with regard to what the SLPP party, when they were in opposition, said about this very thing that they're promoting now, this very bill that they're trying to pass in Parliament. They vehemently were opposed to it in 2017. So I will read something very quickly, not just a small portion, but it'll give you the gist of what I'm trying to say here. This was a press release from 2017 in which the SLPP party, where they now try to do the same thing with them in the oppose, say, I read, quote, "Let me hasten to reiterate that the responsibility of voter registration is solely the business of the National Electoral Commission. This means that NEC does not only conduct the physical registration of voters, but stores the data in its own server," it meant to say on, "in its own server, conduct matching to check for duplication in the presence of party agents knowledgeable in biometrics. exhibit the voter registration and issuer of voter ID cards. Additionally, the SLPP wishes to emphasize that the only final voter register will be submitted to the National Civil Registration Authority and the political parties. The SLPP abhors any attempt by the NEC to share the data on voters without any other authority before matching and it's finalized. So basically, they were saying that, first of all, not to NCRA business for register voter them. And it's true. But then today, they are the ones trying to do the same thing they were opposed to in 5 years, just 5 years ago. But also, I want to add to what Cheno has said with regard to this, this attempt to rig the 2023 elections. I'm just calling it out bluntly because that's how I am. So if we look at what he don't talk about things that will not happen at the judiciary, it don't mention parliament. I want to draw readers or the audience attention to the National Electoral Commission. They have things that have happened already that raised a red flag with regard to publications Africanist press don't make. We at NEC, they increase salaries, right? These guys were talking about salary harmonization. It definitely, some people need to be adjusted for their salaries, right? But here they are. NEC will probably not need salary adjustments, but because the role they play is to handle the elections, they increase every employee's salary at NEC, from Mr. Kone, the commissioner, down to drivers and house help. Some of those drivers and house helpers make more than teachers or police officers or military officers. NEC, it was for a reason. Also, we look at statistics Sierra Leone, they try to do this midterm census, as unprecedented as that is. Not only that, the European Union, where they do elections follow-up mission, came into country. In Cancer alone, they look at what the midterm census they're all about. And they say, this thing also, it don't look correct too, and not healthy for making you can touch boundary limitations just before an election. But even before EU raised down, the National Election Watch knew a consortium of civil society organizations had been on Statistics Sierra Leone's back for 2 years. They tell them, say, this also is not necessary right now. Government, they say they want to use that for development. They say, but we don't have enough time for even do what we want for the elections. They come in about a year or year and a half. That's when they started. World Bank, that financed some of these activities, saw late in the game, I must say, that then said for pull on for this because what they see not look kosher. So all of these things are not by coincidence. They were deliberately, it's all deliberate. I mean, it's part of the big rig strategy as a citizen of Sierra Leone, from my eyes, what I see. Also, the NCRA recently, China mentioned that in talk, then start salon. I see they post the other day, they show picture of them. I mean, then things so they see through them. They think that Sierra Leone and populace they see through all these machinations to try to rig these elections. It is not going to be easy to try to rig. As God said on the show, all their exposure also will take place, not so by coincidence, maybe not by through the master in your work for sure say this is not the way for go this term. And they also, government also understands say the ballot stuffing, whether be a common way of stealing elections, it's not easy right now for do. This is why they have come with bills like this in front of us. So I just wanted to give us that background as to say they have layers of in their strategy with how they want to rig these elections, and the people can see through this. Not only that, the revelations of the Africanist press. I mean, they had already mapped out Bandajuma and Panguma, as new districts, even before they went to President Bio to count him as the first person in this bogus midterm census, as I have always referred to it. So I just wanted to make those points clear in that this is not not to isolation. In fact, it gets tighter and tighter for governments because people are ready for protect and vote them, and God don't show me say the NTS way they do so. They don't come out to light before the election, so we get plenty of time for we are just as citizens of Sierra Leone who want to see free and fair elections in a country. Let us play fair ball. Who that's win, 2020. If I said bigger for win, let them win a fair one. Same thing for the opposition or whoever else will go for contest. So my own slogan, now 2023 elections, no rigging. Who that win. Yeah. All right. Let me get into the chat because there are some comments in the chat that I want to quickly speak to.
Mr. Israel, say something.
Okay, Mr. Israel, sure. Go ahead whilst I look at the chat, sir. I can unmute you here. You're unmuted. No? Ask to unmute. Unmute yourself now, sir.
Oh, yes, thank you.
There you go.
I just want to make a couple of points on the PR system. We tried it in 1996, and then we tried it again in 2002. Now, you will observe very well that in 1996, when the war was in its thickness and getting towards the settled, we had James Jonah come to Freetown. Another James Jonah in connection, because the MPRC been given some kind of push afterwards. The MPRC set up in the Kabai government. Anyway, he was masterminding that. Now, the first part, the 96 one, you will recall that we use one type of PR system. But on the 2002 system, there was a different type of PR system. So you see, not even it's steady. And when I can look at Italy, PR system does not make for stable governments. The number of government changes that can collapse in Italy over the past year, I'll even lost count. When you look at the PR system of Southern Ireland, they have a different type. But what we had in 2002 was like a combination of the Italian and the Irish type. And that did not work out well. That was why the time when Khalifa Smart should have won the election. The twists and turns, forging and rigging, turned out to be Bakaba win, the SLPP win. Because it is when the details were, the data was finally produced, it was shown that that election of 96 was won by Khalifa Smart. I remember Abbas Boudin party gets 0.002 or 3% or something like that. Neither old party will make. But in our favor, it's not a favorable system. And it's not in our culture. That is why we came back to post past the post. That's not our culture. And in order to entice our voters to get into that, and by depriving, by having this block voting system, you the pick for we. I mean, the voter participation becomes virtually none. So this is the point I want to make here. It is not a system that we get used to or we know about. And if they genuinely want to carry on a genuine straightforward election, as you say, sir, let them go vote. Would I win? But at the same time, this desperation of rigging and staying in power for 2 terms is not right. Because all my IUP now. That's all I want to see. Hello? Are you there?
Me? I'm here.
Yes. That's all I wanted to say about it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. You've been very, you've added some valuable contributions to our discussions today. So we appreciate you. Next week, I will look for you back.
Hopefully.
All right. So, Mr. Jallo Jamburia, I see your hand is also up.
Yes, I was only going to ask that we have a separate program on this PR system.
Yeah.
I live in a country where the PR system is efficient.
Okay.
And the reason for it is the Scandinavian society has the social psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Democracy is a social attitude. And the system you have in Scandinavia is one of communal living. So the PR system can work, but it's something that has to be explained, but not in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, it's going to be recipe for disaster, inter and intra parties. Let's have a program on that next week, gentlemen. And to Mr. Ba, we have to look at other ways of spreading this message, especially using the radio and other media, because this is very important for our people to know. This state capture, as I said before, is happening the third time now. Mr. Papa here will agree with me that the first state capture happened in 1924.
That is Governor Kadu?
Yes, Kadu. No, Slatter. They ran for Slatter time.
Yes.
When they took Westminster politics to the protectorate,
Exactly.
state capture came in. That ostracized the Creole and the Western elite.
Yes. Yes.
The economic effect was it brought in a middleman class that are today controlling our economy.
Yeah.
Then you know, of course, what happened in Sierra Leone from 68 up to 1978.
Oh my God, don't see.
You know. Nobody forced anybody. There was a connivance. And some people who were the real APC were ostracized. We need to have a separate discussion on this PR system because it's very important for people to know the implications.
Sure.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for that. I saw today a discussion between a parliamentarian and a civil society guy. And towards the end, in fact, the moderators or people from 98.1 were sort of deducting that the civil society guy is in favor of proportional representation. Obviously, it has its pros and cons, but for our body politic as it is today, I am not sure it is the best thing for our country. But like you said, Mr. Chamboya, we'll discuss this in detail, perhaps in our next conversation. But I do want to address the comments in our chats because I want these people to feel like they also, belong to our discussion, even though they are not out there, talking, facing us. So let me continue on with some of the comments where I left off from. I guess last thing I said was what Janet Mathamusa was saying. Was putting in the chat from different things that she was researching as we were talking. Christine came after that to say, thanks everybody for your answers. I can't figure out how to respond individually here. It's all just really pathetic. And apparently they are all above the law. Cherno put it very well. This is truly the disease that is behind all misery. And our friend Coco, there is enough evidence of corruption and the regime's efforts to illegally hold on to power by intimidating the citizens and manipulating the judiciary and electoral bodies.
Oh, the judiciary.
Mr. Lamin Sanyang, a man from a different country, he says, thank you, Comrade Cherno, for the wonderful analysis of the situation in Sierra Leone. I honestly think you, Africanist Press, that is doing great work. I'd suggest to hold this program weekly. Bravo. All right, moving down the list. Again, this is Janet here. It appears that corruption is systemic in the country. There are no ways about it. Coco, it's Ko, I guess that's how you pronounce your name. Main point, disenfranchising the citizenry. Thank you, Mr. Jamboria. Mr. Kone, a fine gentleman. Please behave and act honorably. You are one patriotic Sierra Leonean to defy tyranny. All right, moving down, Mr. Samuel Eric Thomas said, Mr. Ba, I want to know if Africanist Press have anything information about President Bio wedding expenditure? If yes, can you please post it on the Africanist Press WhatsApp group page? That wedding, I remember the first lady said not one single bottle of water was given to her from the States. We'll have to wait and see on that, yeah? All right, moving down. Samuel Eric Thomas again. The parliament, it has ruled by the ruling party. Opposition don't have voice in parliament. They do. See, they're stopping the bill now. They do, but they have to have a voice at all times, not when it pleases whoever. Christian says, what makes you believe or hope that any of them will ever truly be held accountable? Now that's deep. Will it not be called a witch hunt as usual and then be swept under the rug? What needs to change to get real accountability and consequences for wrongdoing? Do we know? All right. The next comment from Ko again, Cherno, that clearly explains the connection between financial and political corruption. Bio has definitely become despotic. His cronies are capable of causing mayhem in Sierra Leone. Well, we saw some of that in Parliament yesterday, with a rowdy group. They call it, I mean, the APC parliamentarians were saying they were SLPP thugs. But unfortunately, I saw a parliamentarian who said that, there was no, they couldn't tell if it was APC or SLPP crowd. He even said on national radio this morning that it may have been an APC guy who went and hit the other APC parliamentarian with a piece of rock to blame it on the SLPP. These are educated elites, yeah, saying things like this in public. Moving on, here's what Mr. Israel said. Small parties, no, before that, continuing with COA, as a result of consistent and persistent intimidation since Tonko Limba through Constituency 110 and lately Constituency 056, there is strong evidence of voter apathy. That's a good point. About 58%. We looked at that. That in itself is an indictment of the electoral bodies that must not be ignored. Let the NEC publish voter turnout in percentages since 2018 to date. I attribute there was heavy, military presence, police presence in 056 at constituency 056. That alone is a recipe for voter apathy, because who wants to go and vote under armed military guards and all that good stuff? Not everyone feels comfortable doing that. So Mr. Israel, he says, small parties get increased membership in parliament without the people approving. That's what the PR does, yeah? The type of PR used in 1996 was different from the PR used in 2002. Again, there was a lawyer that made the same or similar point when he was analyzing the PR system. In that same discussion, I mentioned that civil society guy. He was saying that Pakaba's PR employment of PR in 1996 is quite different. We're coming out of war. It's quite different from what we have today. And then moving on, Israel, it is clear that the government is bent on illegally hanging on to power. PR or block is not feasible at this time. Our judiciary and the relevant MDAs and individuals are helping the Bio regime to kidnap the states. Cherno is doing a good job. Janet says, our fight is to educate the electorate for a better outcome. Hadrik Kanu, all in caps, he was angry. He goes, to be honest, we owe it to our nation. We have to fight this, so they have to defend this, or we will drive them all out, regardless of whatever party. That's what I call total accountability. Hold everyone accountable who are doing bad things in our country. Janet, okay, this is Ko again to Janet. Janet, then we have an obligation to take these discussions to the hinterland. Even Bo and other big towns are not part of these discussions. Good point. The conversations have to be taken down to Krubonla and Jimmy Bagbo. Janet says, I'm ready to push this envelope further to change the mindsets of our people. Good. I'm sure the Africanist press would appreciate, volunteers doing what they're doing, like me, for example. And Cole said, that would be wonderful. John, okay, this one is a direct message, but I wouldn't say who said it, but who sent it, but I'll read the message. Sir Amadou, will a transcript or a recording be available for release or ease of reference to these very important points. Yes, actually, Sierra Cast TV, carried it live. So as soon as we're done, the video will be available, and we will share that on social media. If you just go to Sierra Cast TV, you'll be able to see it for yourself without me sharing it. Janet says, this is a revolution. We must keep the fight going. And then COA said, thank you, Cherino. Please let this be a weekly discussion. The issues are urgent and many. Hedri Kanu again. Mr. Masale, can you help me with that extract, please? The one you just read. You go pay me? Original YOLO. Can you quantify in real time money spent by the president and his pack of wolves in all his travels so far, and what sort of benefits those monies could have done for the country, especially in job creation? And John Gordon, will the transcript or recording be available for release or ease of reference to these very important points? I just responded to something similar. A separate and nationwide discussion, a Bintumani style discussion. That's what Mr. Cole, or is it a Miss Cole, I don't know, is saying, COA. So those were the chats that I may have missed one or two, I'm not sure, but this is what we have in front of us at the moment. How was that? Was it clear?
Yes, I think this it's good to have these voices. We just have to, like I said during the first day, that we are also trying or working to develop ways that people, wherever they are located, have access to our ongoing conversations without necessarily coming online. So we're exploring possibilities of using access codes where you can just phone in. If you have a cell phone, and you can listen just like you listen to an FM radio. It's easy to do that for audiences in the US and Europe, probably South Africa and other places, maybe Nigeria now. Most parts of West Africa are still way behind in terms, technology. But that is how we're thinking about it. So hopefully we'll be able to overcome that before maybe the end of this year. So by the time we get to the elections, people will be able to listen to any South Day. So I don't know, because I don't want to add anything to what I have said. I don't know if Christine want to sum up how you feel about the conversation. You want to say something, or you don't want me to put you on the spot? You want me to unmute you, right? Oh, I can't even find. Okay, do you see?
Is she still around?
Or maybe we can turn it over to Janet to sum up, because I just want to see if we could end the conversation here so people can rest, and thank people for coming, except if there are individuals who want to contribute, say a word or something, or make comments. I don't know if we will get people in. If anybody gets something for say, so then we will say how they feel about the conversation, how then would say. Otherwise, we can ask Janet for do a summing up, closing, and turn and move back to the moderator.
Sure. Janet, in fact, Janet is saying something about Bridge Radio. William is from the Bridge Radio. Can you tell us a little bit about the Bridge Radio, Janet, and how, what are the potential for, because I know you wanted, I think you're broadcasting today, as a matter of fact. But yeah, if guys like even Scan Freak, he's a radio kind of guy. I mean, if there are ways we can synergize and get this word out to the extent possible, definitely we can suggest them to the editor-in-chief of Africanist Press here.
And I have asked you to unmute, so you can, yeah. You
to unmute who?
Janet.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I am so fired up And I've come to the conclusion that it will be about time to remove myself from whatever political party that I've aligned myself with in the past to go forward with this fight, to be able to tell our people what is going on, the kind of evidence that we have. This is not just an allegation. You know, this is something that has happened. We have so much evidence that, you know, we are spoiled for evidence if you come to think of it. You know, so for me, what I've learned the entire night is to say that we have a fight. And this fight is a generational fight. It's not only for this SAPP party now, it's going forward. What we do with this knowledge, this information that Cherno and his friends have put together, will help to reshape the future generation. And to me, this is very important. I am a 62-year-old woman. I've got nothing to lose. My fight is to make sure my country prospers, that the people living within Sierra Leone have the dignity, you know, that they deserve. And this fight is on. This fight is on. I keep reminding myself, this fight is on. I am a volunteer to fight, going forward with what the Africanist press has put forward to us, for us, and for everything that I've had. I am just ready, truly ready to fight. Like COA said, we can go to the hinterland, you know, tell our people, educate them. We have foot soldiers. We can't work in that way, you know, pay people to go out there and speak to these people, show them the evidence. Because, like, you know, Amadou, like you said, then go ask for the evidence. Well, we get the evidence. We get the evidence for, say, this party, and not only this party now, but for going forward. We want to try for clean with people. It's a national cleaning approach we get for use to say corruption. It don't kill more people than the disease and way they happen in the world. Not only in Sierra Leone, but the world at a global level. And Sierra Leone are only 7 million people. We can clean, you know, change our mindset and say to ourselves, let we for once live as people with dignity. You know, it hurts so much just then at people in backyard. You know, for me at my age, I should be home in Sierra Leone, you know, giving the little knowledge that I have to empower other people, not to stay here and waste my life. So being here tonight, I have cried a little bit, but crying is not going to help. What is going to help is fighting to go forward, fighting to get our people to understand this message, for them to use this message when it comes to 2023. I thank everybody.
So we turn it to the moderator to see how we can close.
I think you mute your phone, Mr. Masale.
I was busy trying to put the Seracast chat thing in the chat, Seracast link to this show, because someone asked if we could put it in the chat. So that's what I was doing. So, Mr. Jallo Jamboria, were you ready to say something with regard to especially
just a quick something?
Okay.
I think I have to meet with you guys, Jeanette and this other fellow on this other media. Let us arrange how we can spread this message. The tools are there. I even have some of the tools with me, okay? The tools are there. Let us have a short meeting when it's convenient for you so that whenever there is a broadcast, it can go on several channels. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. And let us examine how maybe we can translate some of this into podcast in the local languages. We need to do this for our people.
Definitely.
Well, currently we also stream to YouTube. So
okay, well then I can anyway we can connect everything because I use a backend connector we name switchboard.
Who just said that? Currently something so.
Oh, this is Amjad.
The man,
hey,
okay, Amjad.
Amjad. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're currently there on YouTube and Facebook, and
Okay.
majority of the Sierra Leoneans
I have an
have
online
access to
radio that also has a podcast.
Let's podcast it. Amjad, I would like
Where-
to hear from you also.
Where I can use the audio pa. I'm not going to use the video now. The audio I go use.
Okay.
So from my end, I have a ton of comments, over 100. So most of them are around praising, Mr. Ba, and also arguing with each other. But at the end, I get one question where one lady posed, say if we can try for Matilda Jekyll, say if we can try for keep the program around 2 hours instead of making it too long.
Okay.
Yeah. And that said, I've been getting one question for the two of you guys. I just want to know what's on our hope or concern for the next election.
That's a sharing of question.
We hope that the hope of any. So there are two answers I can give, two ways I can answer that question. One is my own personal desire as a Sierra Leonean, which I cannot. What makes the Sierra Leone project more difficult for me is the fact that I'm writing about my own country and my own people. So there is no way you can separate the emotional aspect to it. It's different if I was writing about another country. I wouldn't even care. I would not have this kind of conversations in the first place. But with my own hope, I just say I'm in closing earlier, personally as a citizen, I just want a free democratic environment, okay, where the elections should be free, fair, and violence-free. Nobody, we don't see a situation like the president announced, say, he won't contest. I mean, he don't fulfill all the manifesto. In fact, he don't add more. So if that is the case, you should not be afraid of competing with anyone. So we not forget a French kind of election where what is this politician who was framed up in New York over sexual assault charges, the IMF boss, is it Dominic Strauss-Kahn, if you remember? Yes. And Sarkozy kind of situation. So we do not have to have a situation where politicians in power will be scared of who they compete with if they actually believe on their record. So for me, I believe if you don't get an open democratic environment, you will end up having a bad government. You don't understand? I don't want to have a situation where we will get this kind of difficult conversation that I have to be forced to begin to write about how somebody has stolen here, has done this bad and all that. So I hope my hope is that the Sierra Leonean public, including even the politicians, for once, go able to understand, say, the human selfish ambitions should be secondary to the national interest, or should be embedded in the national agenda, national interest. That is my own personal hope. As a journalist and a professional, this is all I can do. It's about bringing pertinent information to the public and educate the public around what is happening behind the closed doors of government. I don't get any other responsibility outside of that. So even this effort where they make for talk to you, and you also make your tools and your platform available to the users so endlessly beyond even, I think the suggestion 2 hours is max, because right now I'm almost exhausted talking far too long without time regulation. So this time no more. We all, the time we don't use other endeavors, we're more lucrative, but everybody we're doing the sacrifice we don't make for the more than 3 hours we don't there. That is time that we are not paid for. But we just invested in them because we're talking about our homeland. So, but this is not an extension of even my own duties, because as a journalist, I can just write and leave it there. Would I want to take her? Would I want to not take her? Okay, but we talk about Sierra Leone, our country, we want better. We want better. And part of, for me to get better, we have to also explain to people and what it means. Even though some people will know what it means, but they're in denial, because it's hard when your party people are involved, when your supporters are involved. So that I want for that's my only hope. I believe say well-educated and informed people, educated in this sense, people educated with information, will be able, well-informed and conscious people could decide in their own mutual or individual interest, the collective interest of the country as a people. So I don't know if that answer, but I want to also say we thank you for providing the platform and opportunity for make we all. This is a collaboration. We cannot do this alone. It's a collaborative effort. And I want to appreciate other people who don't decide for volunteer and add value, add help for put hands together so we go do this work in a more easy way. That's the difficult part. I think we don't exhaust the time over do. I also did not plan this conversation for last more than 2 hours. Left with me, it will be 1 hour conversation.
I know that's good. We're not getting much for do. This is better than most of what we can do.
We're not getting much for the amount talk to yourself and talk to the public.
No, I mean, this is a good contribution, for the nation.
Absolutely.
And probably within this they provide, it will be better than whatever we're engaging. So,
It's
better.
It's better than.
I want to tell you thank you very much. You do a hard job. You put your life on the line for the rest of us.
Yeah.
I think that's a noble behavior from any human. And on behalf of Siakas TV, we want to thank you and Mr. Masale.
Thank you to you too, sir.
Yep.
Thank you to you too.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I think we are my own bedtime on the reach now. Yes.
There you be on them. There you be.
Mr. Papa, me another sleep and no will.
You see,
I am over midnight now, but I'm still strong.
You don't use your phone this morning. When we were looking with this small voice in the congregation, we were cheeky.
All right, guys. We're shutting down now.
Yeah.
We will be seeing you again soon because the movement is on. In Sierra Leone, we are not lucky when it comes to leadership. But one thing I do know is that bad governance pass bad governance. Let's look at the lesser of evils, so to speak, in the sense that even if we know the hope for good governance in the near future, maybe we get less of the bad governance. As we see, this is in response to Amjad's question that he asked of Cherno and I. I'm coming in late with mine. So on that note, good people, thank you all for your time and the inspiration that you guys provide to people like Cherno here, who is doing all of this for love for country. Nothing more, nothing less, as far as I know. And yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.